Great Scott! Fellow armchair Imagineers, Jesus Christ. Tiki here.
Blue Dragon 5.
And Jacob Wile.
And welcome to a very special 40th anniversary retrospective podcast on the original, the seminal, one of the most iconic American movies of all time, Back to the Future. And appropriately enough, we're doing this on the 4th of July, to quote the mayor from Jaws, to paraphrase the mayor from Jaws.
Shark
All
still,
right, so...
the shark still looks fake.
No,
I mean, I know that's a reference from the second movie, but it still works.
it's all good. It's all
Time's
good.
relative. It all goes around. We're going to be at the end scene of the movie anyway. It's fine.
So, guys, I got to be honest with you, and Dragon knows this. Back to the Future has kind of been one of the things where it's like I've been very reluctant to do a podcast specifically on this movie. And I mean, obviously, it's like it's just iconic, but I feel like it's so iconic, it's so omnipresent that I'm not going to lie, Jacob, I'm glad you're here too, because for me personally, I'm glad to be here just because, you know, it's a special occasion with the 40th anniversary, and you know, and I feel like it is a big movie that it's one of the last, like, we've covered the ride, but we haven't really ever gotten into any of the movies, I don't think, unless we covered part 2 back in the day.
I don't think we covered part. I know you mentioned.
I don't think we did. I think we covered the ride for 2015. I think that's.
But unfortunately, even that ride, at some point, we may have to consider a revisit because we had a production problem when we did that.
I know. I remember that, but
yeah, so, I don't know.
But yeah, suffice to say, like, I might struggle for things to say, but regardless, I wanted to be on for this because, yeah, I mean, what can you say about Back to the Future? I think Back to the Future is like one of the most iconic film franchises of all time. But unlike a lot of these other film franchises, you know, we're just coming off of the 7th Jurassic Park movie. I mean, look at all you need to do is just look at that teaser trailer to Spaceballs 2 to show just how absurd the world of franchise filmmaking has gotten. And Back to the Future, man, Back to the Future might be one of the absolute last bastions of, like, it's just a perfect trilogy that they did not mess up. You know, they're not doing I mean, you know, we'll see how Toy Story 5 goes. I feel like Toy Story 4 didn't ruin anything by any means, but I don't know, man. I just feel like this is that's really my big takeaway here. My other big takeaway on a rewatch, I'm not going to lie, I think the pacing of this movie, the directing, the score, editing, all of it is just absolutely top tier. There's a reason it's a classic. There's one or two elements of this movie that might have aged a little, I don't even want to say badly, but just there's a couple moments in this movie where you probably couldn't get away with it today. I think the Libyans are probably the most questionable thing in the movie.
I mean, come on, who cares? It's just the it's just the Libyans.
It's just an outdated, like, I don't know, man.
We needed someone who would want. I don't know. We needed an equivalent. Okay, the only difference is
all I'm saying is that it's a little awkward in a post 9/11 world. All right, that's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying it would be updated to whatever modern equivalent would be. It's the same role. It's the Libyans is the catchiest.
It is catchy. It is a catchy name.
Yep.
And then also, I actually think this, like, it actually works in favor of the movie because it really goes to show what a piece of shit Biff is. But if we made this movie today, we would not go nearly as graphic. I mean, like, I was actually pretty shocked. Like, Biff is like, he's full on assaulting that poor girl in the climax of this movie, man. And I was kind of shocked by just how.
It's tonally graphic. It's not graphic, but it's like, again, the
no, but like it's suggestive, man. It's very suggestive.
But it's all atmosphere. That's what's amazing. But it's all atmosphere and like painting in the mind's eye. Just like, again, like we don't see anything horrible, but you know something bad is going to happen.
Right. Okay, so we have. I know. Eli's excited about this. He's saying, "Great Scott, 40 years, indeed." Kogias is saying, "I'm afraid that I might not have any hot takes tonight because I like Back to the Future." I feel like
that shows you something right there.
Like,
yeah,
it's kind of like in the same territory as Peter Griffin not liking The Godfather. You know what I mean? It's like You're technically allowed to have that opinion, but you're probably wrong. Also, one last note that half cartoon, half human brings up. Wait, Back to the Future is 40 now? Yes.
Yep.
And do you guys know what that means in terms of the timeline of Back to the Future?
We've surpassed their going forward and back 30 years.
Yes, by a decade. And oh my god.
I remember this is not my my take or anything, but I remember working at a convenience store in 2015, and when USA Today put out the special edition paper from Back to the Future 2.
Well, 2015, I mean, that was obviously a big year because it was the 30th anniversary, and then also like, hey, it's the future. But yeah, Jesus Christ, we're all gonna die. We're all gonna die.
Okay. Can you come on, do you mind? I'm trying to talk about Back to the Future here, and you're
I'm just saying, man, it's a scary thought, dude. It's a scary thought that we are now 10 years more removed from the 80s than this movie was removed from the 50s. It is existentially terrifying to think about.
What are you, Eric Stoltz?
Time moves on. Imagine that.
All right, Jacob, I'll throw it to you. What's your take on this movie?
It's like, I can't remember the thing is I can't remember the first time I watched the movie.
I actually, if I could address that really quick, I have a very simple answer for that, and it might be an answer that a lot of my generation can relate to. TBS, baby. TBS used to run the trilogy in marathon form. Dragon, can you relate to that at all?
Well, I can with 2, not 1, but
Okay.
2, yes. Now, with 1, though, that was like Easter is when it would always like repeat for me.
Yeah, my exposure to this franchise was, I mean, I knew about the ride before I watched the movie. I don't know why I didn't watch the movie before, but I saw this movie first, like on a TBS marathon when I was like maybe 12. So, very coming of age movie for me. Anyways, Jacob, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thing is, I don't think I saw it on TV. I think a TV first time. I think it might have been somebody had the DVD for it, and I watched it then. But again, like
great DVD set.
Yeah, I think so. But I remember watching it, and I had I was actually also interested in the bonus features I had. I could talk about like the behind the scenes thing, talking about how the original script changed, which I'm sure Dragon will get into in the background. Right, Dragon?
Yeah.
All right. I think so. But again, it's one of those movies that you watch for the first time and kind of like you kind of fall in love. It's like I like this. That's how it was for me. Like I'm like I like sci-fi movies. This movie is like probably like one of the quintessential sci-fi movies, even though like sci-fi is almost like more of a back burner element to the movie. Like
kind of why I prefer 2, to be totally honest. But
it's like this. I mean, the time travel in sci-fi is more of a catalyst more than the actual focus. But but that's not really a deterrent to me. Like the movie itself is it's borderline flawless. like from the directing, the acting, the music, the script itself, like how it's basically a fully loaded Chekhov's gun.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely, that's a great way to put it.
It's like this movie, like that's how I would word that. This movie is like it's even studied in film schools, like how like considered based on how perfect the script is.
Definitely.
It's a fully loaded Chekhov's gun. This movie, like it basically has been like, or to quote another term we use, it uses the whole buffalo.
Every part of the buffalo.
It uses every part of the buffalo. And this movie is basically one of the definitely reaches the echelon of movies that deserve to be called a classic. Probably even among its time when it was released, it deserves to be called a classic. And even then, deserves to be called one of the greatest movies ever made. It's like the movie itself, it just speaks on all kinds of it has pretty much everything I could ask for in a movie like this. It's like for me, probably like the quintessential time travel movie. All right, I think I'm not. All right, I'll say more when we get to it.
Okay, Dragon.
Okay. So, for me, my grandfather introduced me to Back to the Future. It was I assume it was the VHS tape because I think at some point I definitely had the VHS tape for 1. I assume that's probably how he showed it to me, or it premiered on TV somewhere and he steered me towards it. However the case, he was a very much a universal aficionado with the classics, Back to the Future, Jaws, and ultimately kind of Psycho, but yeah. Anyway, so I was blown away by Back to the Future. He also loved the ride too. Like that was a big thing for us. We saw the movie, we went on the ride, and he loved it as a kid. I was kind of spooked by the dinosaur in that ride, so it was like a whole
same.
We getting eaten by a giant dinosaur in your awesome
ride. That was the reason I could have gone on that ride the same trip that I went to Universal Hollywood and did the King Kong on the tram tour, but I knew about that damn dinosaur, dude. And I wasn't about that.
When I went to Universal, I think the ride for the first time, I think the ride might have been still there, but I don't think I went on it though.
Uh-huh. I mean, thank God E.T. is in Florida still, because I didn't go on that either. Anyway,
so as far as Back to the Future goes, I mean, again, I saw my VHS experience with the original trilogy is interesting. So I had presumably I had the first one, which so far back I can't remember, but I actually saw 3 before 2. Believe it or not, because I was kind of the thing where as a kid I was just kind of so jazzed at oh my god, there's another Back to the Future movie, and so I popped it in. I was like, wait a minute, why? These events did happen at the end of the first Back to the Future, but it feels like I've missed something. Why is there a hoverboard here? And there's like all these questions. So I found out. Oh, I skipped over one. There's a Back to the Future 2, and basically for one of my birthdays, somebody taped. I presume I was on TBS. Well, I don't think it had. I don't think it had commercials, but somehow someone taped Back to the Future 2 and gave me the taped copy of it, and that's how I watched that movie. So I assumed it was from TBS, but I do remember them airing it on TBS a lot. So that was kind of how I experienced the trilogy. But to the first movie, I want to say with the utmost sincerity I can muster. I think it's one of the, if not possibly the best movie ever made. I really do think that. I've always had great reverence for Back to the Future. It's perfectly written. It's iconic. It's like the best '80s movie. It's funny. It's sci-fi. It's got everything. It made Zemeckis' career. It proved that Spielberg could be an invaluable producer. And it's just everything a movie should be. It's just something special about it. It's Americana at its finest. There's a reason we're doing it on the 4th, kiddies. It just feels like this is the experience of you go to a movie theater and you just, it's like this was made. The filmmakers on this, they weren't aiming to, make art. They wanted to make a movie that was just something that they could enjoy, that they knew people would enjoy, and in a sense, it became art. It became this. It became like the staple of pop culture. I mean, when you think pop culture, I mean, 9 times out of 10, Back to the Future might be the first thing, if not like one of the 3 staples of that book of pop culture. It is ingrained in the culture, impressively so. The DeLorean is like, you can't help but have a big smile on your face whenever you see a DeLorean. I feel
like it's a much more healthy version of Star Wars as far as how ingrained in pop culture it is. The fandom for it is just as passionate, but it's not nearly as toxic.
Well, that's the thing. Is Back to the Future is a universal love. It's like it's 3 movies. 3
Universal.
movies.
Universal.
Yes, Jacob. Universal.
Sorry.
But yeah, it's 3 movies that very much they tell a complete story. They go into each movie does tie into that first one, and again, it's kind of like the Peter Gould would call it the Swiss egg philosophy. It's the Brad Bird. We use every part of the buffalo. Use whatever film school or film school adjacent terminology you'd like. It's literally, as the movie hinges on, it's literally lightning in a bottle. It is.
So, Greg, in other words, what you're trying to say basically is, it's a movie.
Tiki, it's not a movie.
It's the movie. That's fair. Right. Okay, let's see. Sonia Pantoja says, hi. How you doing, Sonia? I hope you're having a good 4th of July. Kogia says, also, Doc Brown has a cameo appearance in A Million West. Indeed he does.
So does Django.
I think maybe the worst part of the the Back to the Future fan base is just like the fact that like we have the fringe like Rick and Morty fan base that is kind of like our bastard stepchildren.
Well, yeah, that's like the country cousin of Back to the
Future. Right, exactly. It's like it's like
it's the cousin Arnie.
You wouldn't have Rick and Morty without Doc and Marty.
That's true.
My balls, Marty! My balls!
Hey, remember, it's funny. Back to the Future got Dan Harmon's parents back together.
Right.
Just like George and Lorraine.
All right, Dragon, background. What do you got?
All right. So, of course, kind of like I've kind of said before, like some of the best, like one of the best behind the scenes kind of making of stories in all of film. I mean, I always go with Superman, but Back to the Future is up there as well. It's one of the big story things. I'm going to try and economize it best I can here. So, long story short, Bob Zemeckis.
We could probably do a whole podcast just on the making of. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do some Doc Brown exposition here, just not as entertainingly. So just bear with me. Okay, so Bob Zemeckis, after Used Cars, he wanted to do a movie centered around time travel, just that as they kind of see how it would film. It's kind of like because Zemeckis and Gale, they loved making movies that weren't on the artsy side. Because these guys, they love James Bond movies. They wanted to kind of do action movies and kind of stuff that things that would please a crowd. So anyway, so they crafted the concept. Initially, basically, the main sell line they had was, okay, it's the original title was like Professor Brown Visits the Future, and this was like in 1980. So
like a play on Mr. Smith Goes to Washington?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
So Bob Gale, the writer on this, he wanted to be a comics writer as well as, screenplay and, the writer and all that kind of stuff. So Bob Gale, in the 80s, he visited his parents, and basically he was going through his father's yearbook, and he kind of saw that his father was in high school was like the president of his graduating class. So he kind of realized, well, I hated the president of my graduating class. I thought, I hated it. It was kind of like the rah school spirit kind of type, the one you wanted to punch. And he wondered, I wonder if I would have got along with my father if I went to high school when he did. And that was the impetus. That was the missing kind of like the Marty component for the movie. We had like a time machine, a crazed doctor. Now we have kind of the Marty McFly kind of factor right in there. So they have a concept. They pitch it to Frank Price at Columbia. They get the okay to develop it, kind of flesh it out a little. But then they come back. And it's a no, because this is again this early in the 80s, where at this point, for kind of like kind of a teen, with Marty McFly, kind of a teen-based comedy, they're looking for raunch, they're looking for Porky's, and this is not Porky's. They're saying it's like basically the note was, this is really cute, this is a nice little movie you have here, but we're looking for we need Katzenberg edge here, man. This is not it. So They took it to every studio a few times. It was just rejection after rejection, same note across the board. They even took, because they said, "Oh, it's so cute," they took it to Disney. Disney was horrified by it because of the parking scene, because of Marty and Lorraine. You have incest in this movie. We can't do this. We're Disney.
What's funny is that it really does seem like it's kind of just like, oh, well, it's not edgy enough for mainstream, but it's too edgy for like a family audience. And
and this is the
weird wheelhouse.
Which is strange, because at that time they also had Touchstone.
Exactly.
Right. Oh, this would have worked as a Touchstone movie.
Well, this might have. Do we know if this is like right before Touchstone or like?
Yeah, Touchstone was, I think, was before the 80s.
Okay.
Well, actually, Touchstone was mid 80s anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think this might be
right around the same time period. Yeah.
There's a chance this could have been right before Touchstone.
Touchstone Pictures was founded in 1984, so probably they pitched it before Touchstone was founded.
I think right before Touchstone. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so they pitched it all around, and it's
Could you imagine like that? That's actually like, we should ponder that butterfly effect a little bit, because could you imagine this movie not being a Universal movie and actually being a Disney movie? Like that would have like a genuine like ripple effect on the film industry. That's interesting to think about.
Oh yeah.
Now, yeah, Bob Gale, he always wanted to work for Disney, by the way, so he had a lot of reverence for Disney. So that might have, Anyway,
I should know this, but was Gale involved in Roger Rabbit at all? He was, right?
Actually, no. I don't think Gale was. I think
interesting.
I'm pretty sure Gale was not involved.
No, if he was involved, he wasn't one of the writers.
No, he definitely wasn't. Anyway, we have Roger Rabbit references in Back to the Future 2, but again, that's not really because of Gale. So, okay.
What about Roger Rabbit? That's totally different.
Totally different. Okay, so the underlying reason as to why the films, the cute note was yes, was kind of across the board, but they it was because they worked with Spielberg a couple times and there wasn't a lot of success there. It was like 3 times in a row. Just, you had 1941 because they wrote on that movie. You had Used Cars, and there was the Beatles movie, which I don't think didn't do gangbusters for them. Did okay enough, but the point being, they didn't have a rousing success. That was the other reason. They didn't have carte blanche yet. They didn't have cachet in their name. So Steven Spielberg, their buddy, and then this is they've been buddies with Spielberg since since Jaws. Jaws, they would show him the short films that they had done. Spielberg, really, Spielberg being stressed out in that production, it was oh man, he had a great time with them. They were friends, so Spielberg loved the idea, and he wanted to make it for him because he loves the Bobs. That's what the cute nickname was for him, the Bobs. So he loved the Bobs, but the Bobs feared filmmaker nepotism. They fear Steven Spielberg's buddies. They're buddies with Spielberg, so that's how they got their big movie, their big break. So they wanted to really earn this. So they kind of said, okay, Steven, we appreciate that respectfully, but we got to really prove that we can make a movie, period, before we, do something like that. So they did. So they kind of went their separate ways, kind of did stuff. And Zemeckis did Romancing the Stone, which was the big all of Hollywood. Romancing the Stone went over very well, and they kind of realized, hey, we Zemeckis, we love that remember that Back to the Future idea we loved so much. So everyone now wanted a piece of them because Romancing the Stone was a really big hit. And everyone wanted the movie. They decided, you know what? Let's go to the one person that believed in us. They went to Steven Spielberg with them. Steven, we feel confident now. We would like to make this movie with you. And this was the first official Amblin Spielberg produced film, under the Amblin banner. I know Spielberg had done Gremlins, but I'm just saying this is it's the first. I think first one would actually have the Amblin logo at the top. So the Back to the Future does have a big honor with that. That was Spielberg, the official producer, versus Spielberg's name attached to it. And again, via Universal. So with that comes Sid Sheinberg, Spielberg's guardian angel on Jaws, and basically throughout his career, Sid Sheinberg is the guy with Spielberg. So he had notes. He had some smart notes, but he also had one iffy note. So change Professor Brown to Doc Brown. Good note. But basically, change Professor Brown. They came up with Doc. Good idea. Change. Good idea. Change Meg McFly to Lorraine McFly, which was Scheinberg's wife's name. Okay.
Good idea.
Yep. Okay. We had Doc Brown had a chimp as his lab animal, and we changed it to a dog, Einstein.
Yeah. Good idea.
Okay. Good idea. Yeah, it's good.
And Scheinberg wanted to change the title of the movie. He didn't like Back to the Future. He wanted to call it Spaceman from Pluto.
Bad.
I think I've heard that anecdote before, and I still go what?
It's no, it's not. If anyone's wondering where the heck it's coming from, it is a reference to something that briefly happens in the movie. It's a reference to the comic book that the kid holds up, where it says "Spaceman from Pluto."
Oh, come on! Oh my god!
That's literally that is the only reason. He said, "Well, it's how we introduce the car. It's it'd be everyone. It's all happened." And plus, I think technically may have been kind of referencing the novel that George McFly writes by the end. So you had a little bit of that. Anyway, so being, everyone was.
But Back to the Future is such a perfect title.
And everyone else, every other person involved, or every other studio that was even everyone loved the title across the board except Sid Sheinberg. He was the only one who said, "You know what, Spaceman from Pluto."
I mean, to be fair, he did give other good ideas, so it's kind of offset by that.
Yeah, look this way: of all the ideas, he had 2 iffy ideas. Bad ideas. So Spaceman from Pluto, easily bad idea. The other one's more of a complicated thing. So Spaceman from Pluto, bad idea. The way they resolved it, Tiki, you're gonna love this. Okay.
Okay.
Steven Spielberg sent a memo.
Oh God.
a legit memo. So the solution was, okay, we got to pick our battles with a top studio executive. We can't just tell them this is a stupid title. We're not going to use it. They got to be diplomatic. So they asked Spielberg, what do you think we should do? You know Sid Sheinberg the best. So Spielberg very cleverly, he wrote a memo to Sid Sheinberg saying, Sid, I just want to say we got your suggestion of Spaceman from Pluto, and we all thought it was very funny. Keep up the great, keep it. Thanks for keeping us in good spirits, or something like that. He basically, very publicly, just said, "Oh, that was such a hilarious joke," Sid, because now he couldn't backpedal on it.
That's low key Jedi mind trick status.
Man,
that's why he's the successful director, kids.
Spielberg knows how to play Sheinberg, I guess.
Yes, he does, and again, he knows him for many years.
And considering the success Steven has brought them, and also when Steven said, "Hey, good jokes," it's like, oh yeah,
right. Okay, so there's one huge problem this movie had to contend with. Okay, and this was the other note. So the big problem is that they wanted Michael J. Fox for this movie. This is Michael J. Fox, the TV star. He's doing Family Ties that made his career.
Before Teen Wolf, right?
I'm getting into that. So he's doing Family Ties, and at the time, he has maybe a bit of a break between seasons, so he does Teen Wolf during that time. Okay.
My bad.
So he's doing Family Ties, and so he has done Teen Wolf before Back to the Future. You're right. I think they come out the same year. Teen Wolf comes out maybe a little before Back to the Future. But the point being, he does Teen Wolf and Back to the Future kind of back to back. But their point being, he had a natural. They wanted Michael J. Fox, but Gary Goldberg, the guy who did Family Ties, he would not let him leave for Back to the Future because, again, he needs him for the show, and doing a movie and a show at the same time, it would put a strain on. If he tells him oh, they want you for Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox would hate Gary Goldberg, so he's not going to tell him about the movie or anything. Right. So that's why that happens. So if Michael J. Fox, he sees he's on the back a lot doing Teen Wolf, and he hears about this Back to the Future that's going on, and says, "Oh man, I would have liked to have been on that." But he has no idea.
Basically, what he said is I'm doing Teen Wolf, and down there Steven Spielberg's making a time travel movie.
Exactly. So he has no idea that he's literally he's the one that he's so coveted for this. So Sid Sheinberg, he says, "Okay, look, you got to pick a leading man. You can't have Michael J. Fox for those reasons. Here's who I think you guys should take." He really backed this guy. He said, "Use Eric Stoltz. I just saw the Mask movie." Not the Jim Carrey mask, the other misshapen Rocky Dennison mask, kids. So they wanted. So he saw him in Mask, and he was very impressed. This kid's got it. Okay, I will back him so hard that if for some reason just shoot with him. If he doesn't work, I will allow you to do all the reshoots you want on it. I will fund the reshoots. That he was that confident, Eric Stoltz. So they have Eric Stoltz. We get Chris Lloyd almost literally threw the whole thing away. He had a script. He didn't even look at his cast in the trash can. But then he kind of paused and he thought, the road's not taken. Would I regret not taking this role, just doing theater instead of this? So he read the script, he loved it, and then he met Bob Zemeckis and he was sold. Okay, I'm going to do this movie. Just the stars aligned for this, kids. He literally had a ripping the letter moment, and that's what's put him on the movie. They cast young actors with range, with the idea that they be able to kind of have two birds with one stone. You got Leah Thompson, Tom F. Wilson, perfect casting. Crispin Glover, very difficult on set, insanely difficult on set. He was the drag on. Zemeckis didn't have a great time directing the movie because of stuff I'm going to get into mainly. But one of those two things, Crispin Glover fighting him on every decision in the movie, every single decision. And it's not that Glover was a bad actor. It was just it took a lot to get this.
He was too good of an actor, if anything.
I guess, yeah. Well, you're right, yeah.
Only murders in the building.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's see. So I'm real quick.
I'm sorry, Matthew Broderick, and Only Murders in the Building.
There you go. Okay, so let me talk about the Time Machine real quick. Okay. So the Time Machine originally was a time chamber. It was basically an old refrigerator Doc Brown had modified into it like a time chamber. Very stationary, no wheels. Logically, they said, well, it should be mobile, so they turned it into a car. Ford wanted Ford wanted a Mustang. Like, we will give you this much money to make it a Mustang. And like Bob Gale famous said, Doc Brown doesn't drive an effing Mustang. Turned down all that money for the DeLorean. So at the time they were working on this in '84, the John DeLorean trial was happening. The DeLorean was obviously a really cool and stylish car, but there's a lot of controversy mired in it. So it felt dangerous enough and very much like something they could take and then kind of infuse Doc Brown into the car, which is how we have a DeLorean with like the great cosmetic kind of like,
you know, the air. For a long time, I just assumed that the DeLorean was just a movie car.
No, I mean, think about it. Like, that's what the DeLorean is most famous for, not for being an actual working functional car, but for being a time machine.
That's the thing. The DeLorean actually, and the reason they went with it is that the DeLorean was a famous failure of a car because, you know, John DeLorean obviously got his company in hot water, and that's why we don't have other DeLorean themed vehicles. There would have been basically the DeLorean would have been applied to all sorts of different, like, you know, like different kind of wheel drives of car.
And leading to, of course, the famous line, like, "You built a time machine out of a DeLorean?"
It was a famous failure because he illegally kind of cut cost here and there to make the manufacture of the car that he was certain people would buy. And when they bought it, like everyone bought it, but then the cars kept breaking down and everything because he kind of cheaped out on the labor.
Right.
It's a whole thing. But yeah, so he so it was this. So it was kind of a car they kind of infused a lot of Doc Brown into with the lights, and they found airplane parts, and they kind of customized. The guy who made Knight Rider was one of the DeLorean crew. He actually helped make. So without Knight Rider, we don't have the DeLorean.
It is kind of funny that I just got done watching the movie and watched the credits. Like, one of the credits is like DeLorean time travel consultant.
Oh yeah.
It almost just seems like the Phil Tippett dinosaur consultant or dinosaur supervisor.
I think Ron Cobb specifically was the consultant on that.
Yeah, I mean, he did a good job. I mean, it looks like a time machine.
Oh yeah. So they had three cars: the A car, the B car, and the C car. You know, the A car is basically the money shot car. The B car is the stunt car. C car is like when you have actors inside, like the front part of the car, because they can put a camera in there. It's like cut in half. Anyway, so that's how we get the DeLorean. Okay, anyway, so the problem, Eric Stoltz. So Eric Stoltz played it. He wasn't difficult, but he was a method actor, and he viewed the movie not as a comedy, but as a tragedy. He viewed it as like a drama and a tragedy. So the rhythms were very off, and everyone was very put off by him. It's like, oh god, he's calling himself Marty. He's like Christopher Lloyd actually thought his name might have been Marty. It was a whole thing. No. So they shot for 5 weeks with him, and Zemeckis was like, he was a young, cocky filmmaker to a degree. He was young and ambitious. He thought, look, we can fix it in the edit. Okay, we can make this guy work. And they realized, oh god, this is not, this really isn't working. It feels like, you know, like everything else has come together, but you know, this movie lives or dies by Marty. So they begged Gary Goldberg to just allow him Michael J. Fox no matter what. Like they reached the deal. Like, okay, look, you can have Michael, but family ties comes first, which led to this utterly insane work schedule that would drive any man to the brink of madness. Like, we're talking like, oh god, like probably like 10 to 5 doing family ties, and then like 6 to probably 5 in the morning doing Back to the Future, night shoots, like every end. They like Michael J. Fox was like, we learned the intricacies of this in like the Michael J. Fox Apple documentary they did, still a Michael J. Fox story, but essentially he's you know, he was like surviving. He was drinking coffee after coffee. There's like a mattress in the car that the Teamsters are driving him to and from. They're throwing him in the shower. It's like, you know, he is so sleep deprived, but you cannot tell in this movie.
Right. I mean, there are some scenes where it just looks kind of listless, but it does kind of work for the movie's favor considering he's out of his element.
Yeah. So they had Michael J. Fox finally. You can kind of tell they had to cobble together some shots. You'll notice there's a reason we don't see Doc and Marty in a lot of the movie, you know, together for a certain point. Because again, we had to kind of cut around the performance so they could kind of take some Eric Stoltz scenes, cut him out, and put Michael J. Fox in.
Oh God.
Yeah, for example, when Marty punches Biff, like, look over there, and he punches him. That's actually, if you look at the eye lines, there's a taller man punching Biff. That's Eric Stoltz. Stuff like that. Let's see. So they had to fire Eric Stoltz, who was relieved ultimately, but it's a very difficult thing. And the casualty in all this was poor Melora Hardin. They had a different Jennifer cast, but she was way taller than the short Michael J. Fox, so had to go. Anyway, so Alan Silvestri did the score. Huey Lewis did our songs, Power of Love and Back in Time. And Back in Time was kind of like a freebie because he loved doing the movie so much. He basically was like, look, I don't want to do a movie tie-in song. I just want to do a song. He said, that works for us. Just do a great song. He says, okay, let's do Power of Love. And he gave him the freebie of like, you know what, guys? Movie tie-in song, Back in Time.
Nice.
Very nice of him.
And he also cameoed as the person who was auditioning the bands too.
You're just too darn loud. Which has been speculated that he said that because he got that note one time. Somebody said, "I'm sorry, Huey, you're just too darn loud." So they had a test screening and the preview, and it went over historically well. They loved it so much. I'm going to get into the script changes later, Jake, when we get into the conversation. But the test screening went so well they bumped it up from August to July 3rd, which was oh boy, it was very stressful, but they got it done. Biggest movie of '85, and really sweet note to end on here. They got a thank you letter from John DeLorean. John DeLorean even invited the crew. This is
which little blue is pointing out.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, he was very touched by it. And they sent him a very sincere thank you letter and said the DeLorean crew that you had, they can work on my next project, which didn't come to fruition, but it was still very nice.
And now technically the DeLorean is now remembered as the absolute failure of a car, but now is one of the most iconic vehicles in film history.
Yep.
You can't write this, folks.
I mean, look at the ride, man. The ride, we had a fleet of 30 or so DeLoreans in that ride.
Oh God.
All right, so then of course we get sequels and the rest is history.
Literally. Jinx.
Okay, so I think one thing to talk about here is, and Jacob, I think you really hit it on the head. The whole the Chekhov's gun element of the movie is, I think, one of the most every time I rewatch this thing, it always impresses me just how much even in the first let's say 5 minutes of the movie, it's we are setting everything up. We are just lining up the dominoes just all in a row in such a perfect fashion. It really is impressive.
I mean, the first thing you see is a clock, which obviously sets up time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see Marty performing the guitar.
Can you just acknowledge 80s and 90s movies and Rube Goldberg machine openings? Because this is one of the best ones. I think Pee-wee's Big Adventure is the best one, but this is up there.
So actually, when they did this opening, it was kind of it's kind of a cost-effective measure where they had an elaborate opening plan for Eric Stoltz when we have Michael J. Fox, what's so great, I guess overall, this movie has such a mastery of exposition and visual storytelling. This opening is so indicative of. We have the clocks, Marty's introduction tells us everything we need to know up front and economically about the plutonium and everything.
And it's also a good way to get see the opening credits and see this. Basically, set up Doc's entire eclectic personality as well.
Yeah, I mean, totally. Again, Doc's over the phone, and we feel like we know this guy.
And the fact that we spend a long time, I actually was really impressed with. Obviously, we build up to Doc. We build up to Doc pretty much throughout the first act until the climax.
We don't meet Doc until the end of Act 1.
Right. But one thing I noticed too that I was really impressed by is we do a really good job of holding on the reveal of Marty's appearance as well. When he first walks in, it's
in the amplifier, he blows himself across the room.
I mean, the first time we see Marty's face, he's literally just coming out of the pile that he created.
I love that he, which you're right, Jacob. That kind of facilitates Marty is going to create a mess, but we're gonna see him get out of that mess.
And I gotta say, I was really impressed with that, just because, Marty McFly is such an omnipresent character, and, you expect someone like Doc Brown to have a lot of build-up, but I do like how we do get a little bit of a mini build-up to Marty as well in the movie. It's really good directing.
And that establishes his desire to, mess with things, and also his music. And also kind of highlight some of Doc Brown's impracticality with that giant speaker.
Sure.
The giant amp.
When they wrote this movie, they used the note card. They used the index card method, which I think served them so well. And this is where, the film school classes really, they always hit on this, where they approach the story in the best way you could, in which you lay out your plot beats, but then you realize, okay, well, for this beat to happen, what if we have to establish how it can happen? So, okay, Marty invents rock and roll. Well, we have to show him playing the guitar, opening the movie.
Oh,
Stuff like that, like little beats like that. Like, okay, Marty invents the skateboard. Well, we have to show him on a skateboard. He's doing like the cool '80s things. So let's talk about Power of Love with that. So, Power of Love, it's such a jaunty way to establish that Marty is cool. And also, more importantly, it's the equivalent to what we do with Mr. Sandman. It's the '80s setting song. This is what shows us, okay, this is our period. This is kind of the state of Hill Valley now.
And Huey Lewis was a popular name in the '80s.
Mm-hmm. So, and plus, I love there's like a song that would play on the radio later on. We have Huey Lewis music playing on the radio, so that's how it would play over the montage, which makes a lot of sense.
Uh-huh.
So it's just great, and we're setting up the contrast to the '50s, Hill Valley now to Hill Valley then. It's a world that we kind of I guess we then recognize. I mean, now it's still all very ancient, but it's. And I still, my favorite detail as a kid always floored me was I love that he was like holding on to the backs of the cars on the skateboard. It was always like the coolest thing you never see anywhere else,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what that bit always reminds me of? It kind of feels like almost an echo of Eddie Valiant riding on the back of the trolley at the start of
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
good point. Yeah, that's a good pull, Tiki.
Yeah. Thank you.
Look at Tiki's good pull, everybody.
Sometimes, believe it or not.
Let's all take a moment and just look at that good pull that Tiki just did. Look at it.
Technically, that movie only takes place like. What does it take place in 47? Like 8 years before?
Oh no! Oh god! Oh no! Is Roger Rabbit less far removed from the 1980s than we are from the 1980s? Oh my god!
Yep. It takes place in it takes place in 47, I think.
I'm gonna fucking die.
And it's like, yep.
All right.
He pulled the Jenga block out. Now he's screwed.
I mean, this movie. I mean, Roger Rabbit obviously came out after this, but it takes place before.
Of course.
We don't have a chalkboard, but we have a Jenga game.
In the same cinematic universe, but Toontown is like the only place in the universe that the Toons can actually exist.
It's really funny. The Back to the Future game that Telltale did.
Yes, I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's worth it. Watch the cinematic of the walkthrough thingy on it, Tiki. It's good.
I think that's about the closest thing we're ever going to get to a sequel. And
that's the thing. And Gale said, like, yeah, this is the closest thing we're ever going to. Bob Gale wrote that, so it's like this is as close we're ever going to get to Back to the Future 4. It's a game, that and the ride. That's all you're going to get, kids, and that's good enough. Right. That's fine. And so with that, Doc Brown kind of turned into a bad guy with like an alternate timeline thing that happened, and his bad guy was very similar, not one for one, but similar to Judge Doom.
Oh, interesting.
I forget if they called him Judge Brown or not, but it was essentially. I want to say his father was Citizen Brown. He was Citizen Brown, but essentially, I think his father was a judge though, so it was kind of like a Judge Doom kind of. Anyway, he wore all black. He looked intimidating. Anyway. So the pacing in this movie, again, because the writing is so tight and subscribing to the use every part of the Buffalo methodology, setup and payoff working so well. This movie, again, it's like an hour and 50-minute movie, but it goes by like that. It feels like
my god! Every time I watch this movie, I am always surprised by how quick we get to the climax at the clock tower.
Right?
I mean, that's the thing. But nothing feels wasted.
That's movie magic for it. There's not a drag. There's not like an eye roll like, oh, and we're doing this scene. It's like, in the back, it like the back of your hand. This is what happens, but you're just so used to it. It's like time just passes like that.
Well, I mean, I think we can all have the same observation about how well edited the clock tower scene is handled. But we'll get there when we get there.
Yes, we'll get there when we get there. All right, that's the thing. So we think about this. We don't spend a lot of time with Jennifer, but we instantly like her, and it gives Marty a reason to go home.
Oh boy, did Robert Zemeckis just wish that she did not exist when it comes to the sequel, though.
Yeah, he does. They didn't know. They thought they were. As I told you, like they struggled for success for so long. It's like there's no way they're going to give us a sequel, and
right.
They thought this was going to be the end of like, oh man, what if we accidentally drug Spielberg's name through the mud with this? Like, what if we ruined his first big Amblin movie? So Strickland is a great use of not just the kind of comedic kind of like kind of tight-fisted kind of guy, but he's he's the expositional recap of the sad state of the McFly family in
the
'85.
arcane maroon, if you will.
Yeah, he's a real jerk, and he calls everyone slacker, and he basically. And here's what's great now in terms of the buildup of Doc Brown. I always loved that Strickland was like the one guy saying that Doc Brown's dangerous, and he's kind of right to a degree. He's very risky with Doc Brown's proposing here, and we build on this when we introduce Doc, and that he's doing a lot of seemingly dangerous things, like, oh, here's the plutonium, and like, hey, stand right here while the car is barreling towards us.
And even then,
that's when Rick and Morty, like the actual original premise for Rick and Morty, was at its finest. When it was just kind of like riffing on the idea of like, yeah, this guy is taking this kid on, like he's genuinely putting this poor kid in like horrifically dangerous, borderline traumatic situations.
Yeah, I love that Marty stands. I know you're absolutely right about that. I love how. He kind of stands up to Strickland, and it's so creepy that Strickland goes like nose to nose with him, like in that scene. But you have this great foreshadow of like history's going to change.
Oh yeah, he literally has no idea how prophetic that line is.
Yeah.
So
like you said, yep.
And even the beginning, like one of the newspaper clippings in the beginning of the opening crawl, or not the opening crawl, but the opening pan through Doc's lab shows like the history of of Doc Brown like losing his land.
Yeah, the Brown mansion catches on fire,
Yeah.
So let's see so we established that Marty he plays guitar, like I said, that but not just the opening of the movie, but we see him do the audition
with the pinheads.
With the pinheads, which again foreshadows Act 3. Pinhead Marty.
Who you calling Pinhead?
Yeah.
Now, if only there's a character named Dan in this movie.
Well, no, it's David. That doesn't count. Okay, so the McFly family. Speaking of that, this has always been like a very honest and bittersweet portrayal of the family. Like George, he's stuck in this in quotes friendship with his high school bully Biff. He's like he's the coworker, and he's like Biff is trying. He kind of makes it seem like
I absolutely had a coworker like this.
Yeah,
where he would just just literally just I mean, not physically be violent with me or anything, but like always like put me down, but then try and gaslight me into thinking like, oh, I'm just kidding around.
Yep.
Very Biff coded.
Yeah, like he's gonna like do like the hello McFly, anybody home, but as like an endearing, like this is our thing, we're buddies, we're old high school chums. Right. When it's like, yeah. But I love that though. It's that underlining thing of he's just like George he never stood up for himself. This is like the end, the kind of the end bit of that of like, well, yeah, it would just continue on in life. So anyway, so the point being, yeah, he's just such a pushover. He's such a pushover guy, kind of like Walter White if he never had an arc.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So David and Linda, the McFly siblings, they just lack. They kind of. I always interpreted that they lack self-confidence because of George. Like they never really aspired, and they kind of settled in life, one could say. And speaking of which, that's kind of the curse of the McFly family. The whole slacker thing is that Strickland is kind of right. He's very rude about it, but he's kind of right in that. George McFly, he was always a pushover and just let himself be bullied and everything. And because of that, Lorraine took pity on him. That was a settled relationship. She settled for George. She pitied George. It's the romance is just utterly gone, and she's become kind of this alcoholic. Just like with the broken dreams of like just I'm a wife. That's about all I got.
And of course, and not to mention that Not to mention, the first thing she then introduces her is like Uncle Joey's missed parole again.
Jailbird Joey.
Uncle Joey is another that's just like a fantastic. I mean, everything is like a great setup and payoff, but that's probably one of the better ones, honestly.
I still love that cake joke so much. The fact they had like a cake to celebrate the parole, and if it got denied, they would be stuck with the cake, so they're gonna have to eat it again. That's hilarious.
Yep.
God.
And of course, at least
Joey kind of sets up like, they're your kids, Marty. There's something wrong with your kids.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, let's see. So, again, great. It gets great subtle characterization while also setting up key plot points. Like during the dinner table scene, like Linda says, "That's so stupid. Grandpa hit him with the car." Like we set up all the move. Like the folks, like, we the audience have like know exactly what's going to happen, but then we twist it with Marty like being in the mix. But we know we set up what the status quo timeline is without having to like literally like spell it out or do flashbacks or anything.
Right,
you know?
right.
It's great.
And they even got us. It was like, yeah, you've told us this story before.
All right, so Doc and Marty. So overall, Christopher Lloyd, master of exposition. Again, famous.
What can we say about Christopher Lloyd in this movie that hasn't? I feel like this is maybe one of the things. I don't even know what to say. I mean, everything that has been said about it's one of the most iconic film performances of all time.
He was perfect. He was perfect.
It's a towering achievement in character acting.
He was perfect.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know. Well, I don't know if you've ever heard this. You probably have, but just in case you know, what gets us at Doc Brown is that Christopher Lloyd, he combined Einstein and Leopold Stokowski.
Ooh.
Okay, I could see that. I could definitely see the Stokowski.
So that's where he got the energy and the pointing gestures. All that Stokowski. Anyway, so he put so much energy into the roles. He basically would do like a very kind of tame rehearsal, and then when he went for the take, he attacked the take, man. So these two, an utterly famous duo of film. Just Doc and Marty. I love that we never explain the backstory because we don't need to. It's just you have such a sense of history and just with the back and forth of these two. Is that I think looking back on it is that Marty. I think. My read on is that Marty respects Doc's ambition. It's the ambition his family lacks, and I think that's why he gravitated towards Doc Brown.
I mean, that's a good way of looking at it.
It's like you get a sense of like there's this history of misadventures between these two, and it's so fun. Like Marty is not a literal student of Doc Brown, but he's like a student of Doc Brown, not the best student, but a reliable.
Sure is that like up for debate if Marty ever was a former student of Doc's?
There is one. Okay, so all that's ever been said about Doc and Marty's backstory, at least like in interviews and stuff, like Bob Gale, like I think did the commentary Q&A thing. It was really weird, but it was cool. Basically, they always they speculate it's not married to it, but it's like if there was like a Bible for like the creation of the movie, it would be like, okay, Doc probably Doc probably needed help with something. Marty was like walking by, he gave him like a case of beer or something, or like, hey, help me out. And that's kind of like how they met. And then Marty's like hanging around Doc because he's interested in what he's doing. And that's what I mean by the whole he's kind of like a student of life kind of a thing where it's
I could see that.
I just think that Doc kind of likes explaining things to it's kind of like the Reed Richards, Ben Grimm kind of a thing to a degree.
Well, again, I mean, Doc Brown, like for as iconic of a character as he is, he really is just like Mr. Exposition throughout a lot of this movie, but he does it so well.
But again, it's kind of like almost to it. I don't mean to Breaking Bad again, but almost in kind of like a Walter White, Jesse Pinkman thing, only a lot more.
Well, it's absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if the Walter White, Jesse Pinkman thing was a little bit inspired by this, honestly.
But that's the thing, where it's like Marty is like again not the best, like Jesse Pinkman. He's not the best student by any means, but he is reliable. He does come through for him. Only Marty a little better than Jesse. Let's be honest. But it's really nice, and I think I love how Doc pridefully unveils the DeLorean. Like he loves and we had a lot of great context with the 50s when you look back on the 80s here, where that Doc, he probably never went into great detail with Marty about this, but the idea is that Doc, it was failure after failure, but he was never deterred because of the indomitable spirit. The credo of the movie, the credo of Doc Brown that he tried to impart on Marty and everybody is, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. So that's Doc Brown's indomitable will and spirit of if this didn't work, the next one will. It's just very chipper. It's very can-do attitude, and I think that's why Doc Brown's such a likable character.
I mean, in the 80s, the first time we see him is he's literally stepping out of this DeLorean.
Yep, he finally made something that worked,
Right,
yep.
Right.
So this is a big moment for him, and like, he's excited. And this is the first time he's tested it out too. He doesn't know what's going to work, but he's like all the numbers that he's crunched like seem that this is going to be it. So he's very
And the intro even introduced the opening. Pan even introduced Einstein, who we finally see.
Yep, see Einstein. We put him in the car.
Build up. That's true. That's funny.
When they first previewed this movie, there was this whole thing where the audience was terrified, like they killed the dog, and then the
oh my god!
So for a moment, there's like a minute, like less than a minute in the movie where, oh god, what do you do to the dog? And if Doc thankfully saying, oh no, he's gonna be fine, Marty, and then thankfully he comes back like the dog's okay. The audience is relieved. It was there was like tension in the room though.
Fair to say that like Doc getting shot up is like less shocking than if they would have done anything to Einstein.
Yeah, it would have been a Rick and Morty thing of like, oh yeah, the dog's not coming back. The dog got sent to prehistoric times. Got eaten by that dinosaur from the ride.
Right.
So the atmosphere. Let's talk about the atmospheres. This movie is so great with the atmosphere, where we have like Dean Cundy doing the lighting and everything on this. Just the empty mall at like 1 a.m, the Silvestri music, the intrigue of like, oh my god, this beautiful DeLorean has just rolled off the back of this truck.
Which, by the way, the movie at the beginning of the movie, it's called Twin Pines.
Yep. Later on, Lone Pine.
Yep.
They're in hazmat suits with like the plutonium, which again, there's risk and there's danger, but you're so drawn in by Doc Brown. It's like you're in Marty's shoes. Like, how can you not stick around to see where this goes?
It's his conviction that sells it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Anyway, so we do the test with Einstein. I love that he holds Marty in front of like the car barreling towards him, which then like turns into flames before him, which is still such an iconic effect.
Even though it's not very well composited.
Yeah, it's not well, but it was the 80s, man. It was 85.
It still looks cool though.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know anything about it, even if you don't really know anything about the it's just like, okay, maybe the time machine has a different effect on fire.
Yeah.
It's like, geez, Doc, you disintegrated Einstein.
No, not disintegrated. He's fine. He'll be.
Einstein just became the world's first time. Of course, like we could go over every iconic line. That's like, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Then we spin the iconic spin of the license plate. Where
out of time.
Out of time. Just great. So all of this serves.
Honestly, what we're getting into here is kind of what I was worried about. Like it's sort of low-key hard to talk about this movie at all without just like, devolving into just like, and let's just quote everything.
Yeah. Like the next one will probably be one of my last ones, but it's like you built a time machine out of a DeLorean? Of course, he's more in disbelief about the DeLorean part than the time machine.
Right.
See again, only Michael J. Fox, only a peppy Canadian could deliver that line. Eric Stoltz, on the other hand, that would be, you built a time machine out of a DeLorean. What's wrong with you?
Oh God. You're right.
It would have been a very soap opera kind of read, like, how could you?
It'd be like Christopher going, it's like, I built a time machine. You built a time machine out of a DeLorean.
Why?
You monster! Oh my god!
Like, how could you read the script and see it as like a tragedy?
Well, it's the whole basically because of the ending. The ending is what sold him on the tragedy of it all. It's like there's a timeline he's never going to go back to. He's lost all of his loved ones.
Yeah, but it's a better truth.
I know. Don't ask me.
It's a better timeline.
I know. He took such issue with the ending. He and Crispin Glover had threw such a hissy fit about the ending.
Oh god,
Crispin Glover more so because he actually stuck around for it, but we'll get there. Anyway, so the point being, so we do the whole demonstration. It demonstrates to Marty for practical purposes, but also us the audience.
I really think the effectiveness of like this is about like what about 20 minutes into the movie, and like we set up everything really well, and this is like this is the last time we're really going to see the DeLorean in action. I mean, obviously we see it in action like a little bit when he goes to 1955 before it runs out of fuel, but by all intents and purposes, like we have two sequences with the DeLorean in this movie, and they're they're placed apart like perfectly.
And again, it's an icon of film because of it. It's 2 scenes though. Crazy.
Yep.
They're 2 amazing scenes though. Let's be honest.
It's like especially like the scene at the end, like where we get to, I'll get to it later, but it gets me every time.
Agreed. All right, so the Libyans. Okay, so I love, by the way, the lot. You get this added to like the whole buildup of like, okay, Doc Brown might be a bit of he's a risk taker, he's a gambler of a man. So Doc, he needed plutonium to for the power source, so he made a very desperate, he made a very dangerous, foolish goal. He made a deal with the Libyans, not intending to actually give them anything they could use to hurt people. He gave them but again, it's a gamble of what he's doing here. He gave them an empty bomb casing with used pinball parts, which is hilarious. It's just like the look on Marty's face of like, just finding out that's what
it's like the Libyans are like Baskin Robbins. They always find out.
Yep. I love that they drive like this giant blue VW van. Which is great. So the death of Doc always as a kid and still to this day, it chilled me, man. Just seeing we spent so little time with Doc, but we love him instantly, and just seeing that, which is a testament to how great Christopher Lloyd was, that in that amount of screen time, I'm gutted by the death of Doc Brown.
Oh, definitely.
It's heartbreaking, and in record time, and then we have again, it adds weight, and it also adds all this weight of like, we're distracted from it just long enough, and then of course when we're starting to circle it with him and Doc Brown, it's like, oh god, Marty's going to have a big moral decision to make here. Like, do I tell Doc or not, or like, do I get Doc to take precautions to save him from this fate now that I have the advantage of time travel in my corner? And it's this whole great ethical thing. So it adds a lot of weight to what's going on with the 50s stuff.
I love how simple that whole conflict comes together at the end, though. It's like, wait a minute, what am I thinking? I've got a fucking time machine.
Yep. But he didn't put enough time on the if he only put more than 24 minutes, he would have. Right. Okay, so we have the chase, which then leads to Hill Valley, 1955. And again, everything pays off. Like, Doc Brown, it's so expository, but it's like him like reflecting wistfully that, oh, I remember this old farmland, Old Man Peabody's farm. The crazy idea with the pines.
This is something that I think a lot of people who grew up in the 80s and 90s can relate to, is their parents telling you, like, when I was a kid, this was all farmland. This was
15 miles.
And also, like, I walked to school forward and backwards both ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's also like, can I just say, I am at a point in my life where it's like I have seen large areas of the town I grew up in like blow up and change rapidly and have like major expansion. So I feel this too. This isn't just like a movie thing at all. This is very much true to form, true to how time passes in a small town like this.
So we have this hilarious. So we have the funny Spaceman from Pluto gag, where we have the comic that they made up for the movie. They have like the DeLorean be mistaken as the UFO, as the flying saucer, and it's just great.
Like, I just love the fact that one of the Sherman, one of the Peabody kids is named Sherman.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a good touch.
Yep.
Good. Anyway, so they should, of course, he takes out one of the pines, and like, my pine, you son of a,
which results in the lone pine.
Which again, it's such a great visual payoff. It's like a gag you either get or you don't, and it's like, oh, why did it change time travel?
The fact that the Peabody Ranch is called like the Twin Pines Ranch, and now like when you get, which obviously lent its name to the mall. And the movie doesn't even really draw attention to it like that. It's now called Lone Pine.
Love it. So Mr. Sandman, again, one perfect song for the 50s. And again, this is
a song that like keeps coming up in media we covered, right?
Yep, it is in one of my other favorite movies, in Deadpool, because of Back to the Future, I suspect.
And then also very, very memorably, honestly, probably one of the most memorable sequences in all of Bates Motel.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So we have which again, kind of universal adjacent.
It is, yeah.
So we have the So again, the needle drops throughout the whole movie are perfect. All of our notable songs.
Dare I say, probably the best needle drops in all of film. I mean,
I would agree. Johnny Be Good, the whole very, you know. So just the charm. So again, this 50s. I love how we play it here. And again, Eric Stoltz's version played this a lot differently, or is more horror, as you can tell in this scene, because you have like it's more of like it's sinking in versus like it's the horror of like, oh god.
Eric Stoltz's performance basically is like the equivalent of like the melodramatic scientist man in The Day That Earth Blew Up.
Pretty much, yeah.
My God. It's like, my God, I've traveled backwards 30 years.
So it's the charm of a simpler time, but it's in stark contrast to the 80s that Marty's familiar with. But I love that we have that Silvestri score. We start with like Happy Go Lucky Mr. Sandman. But again, there's always that haunting quality, and then we kind of go from the song to the Alan Silvestri like build up to when he pulls out that newspaper and the boom. So it's just like Marty's kind of coming to grips with, oh god, I'm in the 50s. I've definitely gone back in time. This is not a good day. This is not good for me.
Well, yeah, you mean when he gets the newspaper?
Yes, it's always a newspaper.
Speaking of which, we haven't talked about the setup of the clock tower yet. Like how he sees like the clock tower, the biggest clue is the clock tower is now actually working.
Yeah, so with that too, so this was the whole hill, the clock to the courthouse square. Kingston Falls from Gremlins.
One of the other things I'm proud to say, I got to see in person at Universal Studios before the fire.
So jealous.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but yeah, so it's always been crazy to me that basically they use the Back to the Future. It's a Universal backlot essentially. So they use that for Gremlins and for this, and it's fantastic. Again, I love how we use that space again with using every part of the Buffalo. We use the space and we use it very importantly for the third act. So we pay it off very nicely, and it's just this. We do what I call the McFly walk, which I always say the Ant-Man did in Endgame, where when he comes back after 5 years, he's doing kind of that Marty McFly, just kind of walking in an unknown land kind of thing. I've always loved against the whole Mr. Sandman scene was always like this great. And we have like we also set up a lot of really good jokes if you really pay attention. Like the sign, the movie house sign, Ronald Reagan's. It's a Ronald Reagan movie.
I did notice that actually. Yeah.
Which, by the way, Reagan loved that. He was very honored to be mentioned. Like it was like they screamed at the White House and they loved it. It was a whole thing. All right, so Texaco.
Guys, hold on. There's a Dragon. Let me know if there's a good time to. I don't want to like stop you down your tracks, but let me know if there's a good time to go back to comments.
Okay. Well, let me say, we have the Texaco. We see the whole like the old timey thing in the 50s where the guys come out and they do they put the gas in the car and everything for you.
Yeah.
Yep. And also the mayor, who's the bum in the future. We see him like being up for re-election.
Yeah.
Red the bum. Hit him with comments.
Okay, comments. Yeah, let's see. Sorry. Little Blue says 1985 was a big year for Spielberg as producer with Amblin, The Goonies, Young Sherlock Holmes. Indeed. People always forget Young Sherlock Holmes. That's one of the very first all CGI characters was in that movie, The Stained Glass Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, which John Lasseter helped with on that.
Yes, he did.
Let's see. Kogias. I mean, these guys might think differently. I don't know, but Back to the Future is such a better franchise than Ghostbusters.
Well, I think he just means. Do you think he means like the entirety of Ghostbusters? Do you think he just means like the first one?
Yeah.
I don't like. Yeah, maybe if you're listening, if you're holding, I think all three of the Back to the Future movies beat the original Ghostbusters.
Well, yeah, there's not. That's not being contested, Tiki.
All right. Anyways, yeah, but Ghostbusters and Back to the Future. Oh my God, I will never understand the Ghostbusters fixation, man. That is one of the things in pop culture that just I missed out on, dude. Let's see. Kogias says The Flash did a great job bringing up the Eric Stoltz stuff.
Yeah, the Flash movie. Remember the whole gag was that he was everyone's
right,
Back to the Future.
right. Yeah,
Which that was. I really appreciated that joke for like the whole Back to the Future behind the scenes of it. I thought that was really cute.
Okay, we have Slasher Fred in the comments. He says, "I think what makes the original movie such a classic is that it is like, what if you could go back in time and see what your ancestors were like when you were young, like you?" Yes, indeed, that is the big sell. The movie has a prior to the civil right movie set prior to the civil right movement because in 1955, Marty says Goldie Wilson will be mayor, and Swell says a colored mayor. That'll be the day.
So it's Goldie nice Wilson. He inspired.
That's another one of my favorite kind of setup and payoffs. Again, there's so many things going on within the script. Let's see. We have AJ 2003 just saying hi. Hey there, AJ. Happy to have you. Hope you're having a good 4th of July. Kogia says if Back to the Future gets a reboot, David Tennant would be a really good choice for Doc Brown. A reboot will never happen, but
yeah. Well,
Tennant, I don't know. I don't know if David. What do you think of that, Dragon? I don't necessarily. I have a hard. But honestly, I have a hard time visualizing anyone but Christopher Lloyd in the role.
I think it's kind of funny that in a sense everyone's been always thrown Tom Holland in the ring for a Marty McFly recast. But
oh my god,
I'm just saying that's what they've said. Okay,
just because he's the hot young actor of the time does not mean he's going to make a good Marty McFly.
Okay, my point is with that in that logical part of things it'd be kind of cute that you have a Spider-Man, you have Danny Jr. as it's a Doc Brown to complement that, but it's not really. I don't know. David Tennant's a really good actor. I mean, I think if you want someone of a caliber like David Tennant to play Doc Brown, but I think the problem there is it's going to be he's just doing Doctor Who, which you don't want that comparison,
It'd just be weird. David Tennant, he cannot do American. He'd have to do it in a British accent.
No, he's done American.
Has he?
Yeah, I mean he can do American.
When has he done American?
He did the. I want to say he played American. It was a fun reversal. He did this show in the UK called Broadchurch, but then it then got changed. I forget what the name. They did an American adaptation with him and Anna Gunn, and he played American for that, even though he was in both shows. He was British in the original, and he was English. He was American.
Okay, well, I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying, naturally, he's one of those actors. He's not like Hugh Laurie, where Hugh Laurie is more known for doing the American accent.
Yeah. So yeah.
The last John Kelly of Krypton says Marty messed with the timeline so hard he took a while for the retro casualty to cement itself properly as such.
Causality.
Yeah, sorry. We see the same series event with two different Jennifers. However, no one notices.
Yep. Yes, that's funny.
Okay, let's see. They're just talking about Clue, which also came out in 1985. Indeed,
Clue is good, but it's no Back to the Future.
Kogia says, "Did you mention the Jimmy Olsen actor Mark McClure playing one of Marty's relatives?"
Okay, I did mention it, but yeah, let's take a moment to acknowledge it. That it's really cool. We had Mark McClure was he had worked with the Bobs before, so they wanted to kind of show him and Wendy Jo Sperber. So, Mark McClure, the original Jimmy Olsen from the Donner Superman movie. Yeah. Grace Point. Thank you, John. That's what it was. Grace Point was that was what the Broadchurch American version was.
All right. The last John Kelly of Krypton. I'm going to say that every time. He says when Marty pays for the coffee, he's definitely using money that was produced after 1955. So there's a fair chance the exact same coins exist within the same timeline. By the time Marty gets back home.
That's funny.
Yeah, that is a trippy thing to think
good
about.
point.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Kogias. For once, Kogias, I am the one with a hot take in this equation. I have always thought that Ghostbusters is just okay. And that's it. I don't even really like it that much. So, by all means, Kogias, you are in the majority in this particular equation here. Bask in it. All right. Little Blue says I was going to mention Downey Jr. as Doc. Honestly, Downey Jr. as Doc Brown. That I could see that. I could see that honestly a little bit if we had to have somebody. Anyway,
I pitched that 5 minutes ago, right? Just.
Okay, I'm sorry. There's a lot of I'm keeping track of the comments. There's a lot of stuff to keep track of here.
Okay, I feel a little shafted there, but go on.
Okay. Anyway, well, that's about it. Last John Kelly of Croton says Grace Point was the American Broad Church.
Yeah.
So okay, all right, that's it. Moving on.
Okay, so speaking of the coffee thing, so we go to the diner and we have the trippy meeting of Marty and a young George McFly, and he witnesses the George Biff dynamic.
Like, I love the first clue is the way that where they're both like tilting their heads and putting their hands on the back of their heads.
Yeah,
like that's the first clue. It's like, hey, wait, these guys are related.
So, Tom F. Wilson. Let's talk about Biff. So, how great is Biff?
He's like one of the coolest classic bully villains in all of cinema.
Also, this is the versatility on Tom F. Wilson, where he can play like so many different varieties and time periods of Biff, and just I guess the rhythms. And apparently, so two things with Biff. So Biff's name, Biff Tannen. So that's actually a reference to Ned Tannen, one of the studio heads, who basically he kind of went into a rant one day, and that always like stuck with Bob Gale. And says, let's just name let's name Biff after a studio, like an ill-tempered studio executive. But
and note that it is spelled different, where Biff has two N's in his name, Ned has one.
Oh, sure.
Like so it's legally distinct.
Exactly.
And if you couldn't tell, I was doing very big air quotes.
Yeah. But yeah, so apparently Tom Wilson, he was bullied. He's a sweetheart of a man in real life. Also very talented and does many voices on SpongeBob. Well, he's done a few voices on SpongeBob. Very iconic ones.
I think the most famous one he did was probably the Tattletale Strangler.
Yep, the Tattletale Strangler, and remember the what was it, like Finn, like the one who was the flat fish that swam into the fight. Flats. Yeah, so Flats.
And it was like I'm gonna kick your butt.
And also played his dad. Now he's gonna kick my butt.
Oh my god!
Which again, remember, so him being, of course, the reason he's cast as Flats is because of Biff.
And one more character in SpongeBob he played was like the one who's like, which one of you was blowing bubbles from the movie?
Oh my god! I didn't realize he was so prominent on
Yes,
SpongeBob.
they loved him, and all because of he's in the lexicon because of Back to the Future.
And he really didn't do much. He really didn't do much after the movie, though.
So,
and apparently, according to Code Geass, he played Tony. He was in Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, he the man who killed Robin's parents.
Huh, nice.
Really good episode too, where in the second, it's like Robin trying to exact revenge on a kind of a.
That was Robin's Reckoning, right?
That was Robin's Reckoning.
Yeah, that was a really good episode for sure.
Oh yeah,
it won an Emmy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I love that he plays things very desperately in like part 2, which is really great. Just like he's just this washed up mobster. It's just great. Anyways, Tom Wilson has been in just comparable talent, so he really always showed the idea that Biff, he's like this meathead of a bully who's like calling people butt heads, and I always love Biff's wardrobe.
You know what's funny about Biff? My nostalgic connection to him is like I said, I was familiar with the ride before I was familiar with the movie. So because he was like the big bad guy in the ride, I had no real context for what he was like in the movie. So I was like, oh man, this guy must be like a super villain. And it's like, no, he's just fucking Biff. I mean, he's a bad guy. Don't get me wrong. He's a realistic bad guy. But he's just Biff. He's not a super villain.
I don't know, Tiki. You've seen like all the permutations of Biff. He's kind of like, you've seen what he turns into in the second one. You've seen him be a bad like kind of
like Donald Trump.
Well, I was trying to say it subtly, Tiki, but yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to be diplomatic. Yes. But also a gunslinger and like a kind of a Black Bart type, and with Mad Dog Tannen in the third one. Anyway,
no, you're right. I'm just saying, like, if you look at it specifically from the context of the first movie, he's just a bully. He's just a silly bully who has realistically scary traits.
Yes, I still love that he always got like the adages wrong, like the whole like why don't you
make like a tree and get out of here.
Yeah. putting egg in your
just
shoe.
really love the physicality of like the hello McFly, hello.
Anybody home?
Knocking on the head.
God. Just again the iconic bully that was like he was like the first almost self-aware 80s bully. Like he was like he had the parodies.
He was maybe like a proto Gaston in some ways.
I mean, yeah, especially with him going after Lorraine the way he did. It's like, yeah. And as we see in Back to the Future 2, he might have gotten away with it without George McFly. So it is a question. All right, so Mart. Also, I want to highlight too, just in general, the wardrobe in this movie is just so pitch perfect with the 50s and the 80s looking like not just like the 80s costuming can always be dated as all get out, but you have dated and you have iconic, and Marty's outfit is iconic.
Absolutely.
The life preserver kind of, it's not.
I love how much mileage we get out of that joke for one.
They think he's like Lorraine's parents think, oh, so you're a sailor? Did you get out of the Coast Guards? It's great. As a kid, by the way, because I was obsessed with Back to the Future, I did wear a red vest for a while.
Really nice.
It wasn't as puffy as that, but I still to this day, I don't have occasion to do it, but I do love the vest because of Back to the Future still. I've outgrown all my vests in childhood, so I don't have vests really.
Heck, the vest has kind of come back in a way.
Would you call what I wear on my stand-up the Hawaiian shirt? Would you call that a vest?
It has sleeves, so no.
Okay.
It's not a vest if it has sleeves.
I kind of use it to have the same function as a vest, as like a second layer of shirt. But
I mean, Tiki, I wear Hawaiian shirts to work every day, so it's kind of that's not a vest. I wish it were, but
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway. So, let's see, where was I? Oh, right, okay, so, of course, we have the interaction between Marty and George. By the way, the Pepsi runner, you're probably wondering, why is Pepsi the drink of choice in Back to the Future? Was it a Coke versus Pepsi thing? Well, not exactly. They went with Pepsi
Coke is better than Pepsi, hands fucking down.
Yes.
Absolutely, no questions asked.
Plus, they don't swindle poor kids out of jets.
Right. Yes.
That said, the reason they went with Pepsi, they were originally part of it. They wanted to kind of feature Coke and Pepsi, but the reason they didn't.
When I was a kid, I was like, I don't care. There's no real difference, and now
there's a difference.
Like, no, there's a difference. There's absolutely a difference.
Pepsi is the drink you settle for. You don't want, but you'll say, it's like, hey, can I have Coke? We only have Pepsi. All right, I'll take Pepsi.
It's like dragging you. It's like dragging you yourself. It was like, ask for a Coke, settle for a Pepsi.
Exactly. You know what? I'm gonna have a weird take though. You want to hear my weird take about Coke versus Pepsi?
You better not throw Dr. Pepper in the mix.
I do enjoy a good Dr. Pepper. I actually prefer wild cherry Pepsi to cherry Coke.
I don't like either one.
That's weird.
Is it because it's wild?
Honestly, that might have something to do with it. The branding, it's just nostalgic. It might be because the whole like wild cherry Pepsi and the '90s bottles with the designs. Yeah, that might have something to do with it. Honestly, I don't know. I just feel like the cherry taste in wild cherry Pepsi is a lot more like it's got more of a bite to it than the cherry taste in cherry Coke.
Yeah, I don't really like either of the cherry drinks, so I
don't honestly nowadays the only soda I'll really drink is root beer. I've kind of gone into root beer now, but I tend to not drink soda. I'm more of a tea guy nowadays.
What about root beer barrels?
Naturally.
Good.
That's all I drink, Dragon. That's my exclusive source of hydration.
With tiny little straws.
I just have a big supply.
Yeah, you have like that Joe Manganiello, like little root beer barrel like crank machine. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay, the reason it's Pepsi is because Pepsi's logo changed over the years. Coke's didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to sell the time travel angle more.
Exactly. So it was a story thing, which again they nailed it. It's crazy. The first Back to the Future movie, I want to say even more than the other two. It was the only movie of the trilogy that had to deal with marketing, kind of like a marketing product placement kind of a thing, where product placement, again, because it was the 80s, they really pushed it on them, and to varying degrees. Like there was the whole raisin thing, where like the California Raisin Company, it was so weird. It was like the weirdest thing ever. They were pushing like, we want raisins. Okay, like you want like a box of raisins? Like no, we just want like a bowl of raisins at the dance. like just like a bowl of like it's gonna look like dirt. We don't want to put that there. No, we can't put like a bowl of raisins at the dance. So they put it like on the bench. If you look, it's on the bench that the read the bums on, and they had to pay back the California Raisin Company. They were very dissatisfied.
All right, really quick on the soda discourse. The last John Kelly to Krypton says Coca-Cola was designed to be drunken as a tonic. Pepsin was designed to be drunken cold. You can't drink Pepsi room temperature. You can with Coke. That's a good point, actually. Like, I don't like. Obviously, I want some ice with a Coke. I want an ice cold Coca-Cola, but like, it's not going to be disgusting if it's room temperature the same way a Pepsi would be. He also says Pepsi tastes sweeter because they're compensating for their own formula that includes a high level of cherry flavoring and Pepsi cherry. Yeah, I really do think that Pepsi cherry does have a higher level of cherry flavoring than the Coke cherry does. John Kelly says, I'm a Dr. Pepper guy all the way, the only doctor I see on a regular basis. Y'all want to know my hot take when it comes to this?
What?
I'm a Mr. Pibb guy. As a matter of fact, when I go to the movie theater, Mr. Pibb is my movie theater drink of choice.
You know what they say
I
about Mr.
never
Pibb?
drink it anywhere else. Never anywhere else. But the movie theater, I'm always getting a Pibb. If I'm getting a popcorn, which honestly, in this economy, with my financial situation, I'm almost never getting concessions at the theater anymore. But if I do, you're goddamn right. It's going to be a Mr. Pibb and a popcorn.
You know what they say about Mr. Pibb, Tiki?
What?
They call me Mr. Pibb.
That's better than mine, but yeah.
John Kelly says, Mr. Pibb, Tiki, I'm unsubscribing. Honestly, it's the McDonald's nostalgia.
But Dragon, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, Mr. Pibb, that's a soda I want to have a beer with. You know, it's like he's a down-to-earth kind of guy, Mr. instead of Doctor. You know?
God, anyways. Okay.
Okay, so let's see where it was. Okay, so after we also have Mayor Goldie, we had the Mayor Goldie Wilson joke, which we already kind of talked about. I just want to highlight Don Full of Love. He is such an ambassador to the fan community. The documentary that Tiki never really fully cared for, but I'm obsessed with. I bought on Amazon so I can make sure I have it in perpetuity. World's Fastest DeLorean, with Adam Contras.
I'm just not a car guy. I'm sorry.
I know but it's about the text on the screen and everything. Anyways, the point being, Adam Contras, who I think is technically like he's like the first blogger, the first guy with like kind of like he had like the blogger, like kind of like the longest running YouTube thing technically. So he's has like a world record or Guinness record somewhere with that. He basically he made a DeLorean that was like the fastest DeLorean in the world, and he had this golf course and everything. Point being, he's friends with Don Full of Love, and Don Full of Love, it's a really sweet friendship, and they do like events for people, like rent the DeLorean to like surprise their loved ones or to recreate the movie and stuff. And Don Full of Love will show up as like kind of like a bonus, and he'll like sign people things for folks. He's a sweetheart of a guy. He's like exactly what you want from like the Back to the Future.
I think he makes a really big impression in the little amount of screen time he gets too.
And so many people like ask him to say, like, Mayor.
Right.
Which again, it's so funny.
Like, I'm gonna be mayor.
And everyone forgets that Goldie Wilson, he was the one who wanted to tear down the clock tower.
That's true.
He's the whole reason for the Save the Clock Tower thing. So he's very pivotal to this movie. Without him, we don't have Marty getting back, going back in time with the whole, his solution for the 1.21 gigawatts thing.
Like we don't like. The only thing that are we gonna get into that, or are we jumping a bit ahead?
Well, we should talk about. We got to talk about Lorraine.
Yeah, it's like,
oh my god!
It's like
every time I watch this movie, I always think it's not gonna work, and it fucking works.
Right.
It's like it helps that it doesn't really like condone what George does.
Yeah, so George is a peeping Tom. Apparently, I love that we set up that joke.
That element, I will admit, that is aged a little. That is aged.
Well, I mean, but my point.
I am not crazy about that particular.
I don't. Do we know if he was peeping literally on Lorraine, or was it a different girl?
Dragon, you basically see her undressing in her room.
No, we see a girl under. You can't see like who the girl is. That's why I'm asking, Tiki.
And like I said, the point is, Marty voices his disgust. The movie doesn't paint it as a good thing.
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
I love that we set up the joke of like, what were you doing?
I think it's kind of
watching?
funny, like given the context of Crispin Glover just being hell on set, that it's like you almost kind of like think in the back of your mind, like, did they write that specifically to spite him?
No. Anyway, yeah, I love the setup on that, where this whole like, what were you doing that day, dear bird watching? And he just doesn't have a good answer for it because, well, he had binoculars, he was in a tree, wasn't bird watching. Well, I guess in the English sense, he was bird watching.
Oh God.
Yep, technically he was.
Anyway, so he, so of course, this is such a great thing. Basically, we have the best visual representation of the grandfather principle. You know, the most PG version of the grandfather principle, in which Marty, he intercepts his parents meeting each other. He seemingly saves George from being hit by the car. Of course, he forgot the story that he's heard 100 times, and he is then Lorraine plays nursemaid to him and falls head over heels in love with him, and she's essentially a kitten in heat. She's very much. She likes Calvin Klein kids. She likes Calvin Klein and his she loves him and his purple undies, and it's just it's wrong and funny, and it's just again
like I said, every time I watch this movie, I'm always like, is this going to be the time where where that element just feels right? I don't think it's ever going to be like that, because I just think the performances are so on point. The writing is very tasteful while still being raunchy. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's one of the most impressive things that this movie pulls, just full stop, is just that not being like super uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's like that's a reason she took on the movie, because she loved that it was such like it was like a role she's playing so against type of like being able to play a role like that. Like I fall in love with my son. Like no other script will ever offer that to you. Like, I gotta take this. It's so funny.
It absolutely would not be a movie. I mean, maybe an R-rated comedy would tackle that, but definitely not like a PG.
I'm always reminded, and Jacob, I'm sure Jake's seconds away from bringing this up, but I'm always reminded of the Futurama parody of this.
That actually wasn't what I was going to talk about, but
well, okay.
But you can say it.
Yeah, so again, essentially the Lorraine thing is like the risk of time travel we kind of do.
You're talking about a Roswell that ends well.
That's one, yeah.
Yep.
So it's kind of like we're seeing the risk of time travel, but also we're kind of like we're doing it playfully here, and then we literally do it later on with the paradox, where essentially it's the grandfather principle, which time travel is like something happens that basically if you cause a significant change, and the only way for that change to the timeline to rewrite itself essentially is your inclusion in that moment. So playfully, again, kind of the sick and wrong way this goes, that Marty never is, he's never conceived, but as Futurama demonstrated, which we don't do here, thank goodness, otherwise would have never played. However, we see the actual honest to goodness kind of paradox grandfather thing go on here, in a sense, when Marty, we're in that endless time loop where for Marty to get back in time, he has to leave in the first place, that kind of thing. I guess for Doc to be saved, Marty has to do that. The whole what we see at the end of the movie. That's kind of the grandfather parody. Not 1-to-1, but essentially. Anyway, point being, it's very nicely handled.
And what I was gonna say was like this brief bit, like the first time that Leah Thompson's mother saw her in the makeup, she was like, "Oh."
Oh, there was this funny thing where Leah Thompson got a physical for the movie, like the insurance, for the insurance claim in the movie, and she had the makeup still on, and she's in incredible shape for a woman her age. Okay, so let's see,
because the makeup was just that good.
Okay, so 50s Doc. We shoot at the Gamble house for Doc Brown's mansion, at least for the exterior. They have the mind-reading hat, which is always just this, of all the non-working Doc Brown gadgets.
It's like, my God, you know what this means? It means this damn thing doesn't work.
I've always loved this.
That's a great line.
He says it with such conviction. You know what this means? Doesn't work.
Oh man,
just completely missing out on what Marty's saying. He's scoffing at the idea. of time travel, especially when he says Ronald Reagan's president. Okay, future boy, who's president? Ronald Reagan. And of course, this gag so much relevancy now. It's just
really. Painfully relevant. Painfully fucking.
I know
relevant.
it's not 1-to-1, Jacob. I'm just saying that it's it's an actor, like a personality being present, being incredulous. If you told someone in the past, it's kind of it's history.
And then when what really convinces him is how he tells him how he came with time travel. Like, I know how you got the cut on your head. Like, you were hanging a clock and you slipped in a slip. When it hit your head in the flux capacitor, it makes time travel possible.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all it takes for Doc to believe him.
Yep. Then we have that great atmosphere. It looks almost like a cemetery where we're behind the billboard and we reveal the DeLorean. He sees the flux.
Just has impeccable fog atmosphere.
Yes,
the whole thing. Yeah,
that's what it is. Yes.
But
again, just the atmosphere, and again, I love the Alan Silvestri and Dean Cundy with the lighting and the atmosphere. Everything. We know how to do an act, almost like an act break, even though it's not television. But it's like just this moment, like, we have to get you home, and then just cut to back to the Gamble house, and we got to figure out,
we send you back to next Saturday night. We send you back to the future.
We have literally of all the moments of there's the title. They said it.
They said it. They said it.
And literally, it's like him pointing at you, the audience member. If there was a 3D moment in this movie, that would be.
And I read a comment on a video on that scene where somebody's like, I wonder if they wrote it with television in mind, where they could clip it and use it as a commercial.
It feels like a perfect advertisement.
Yep. And of course, the portable television studio. No wonder your president is an actor. He has to look good on television.
Yeah. Man, the Reagan joke's cute and still holds up.
And then of course the 1.21 gigawatts.
Oh God!
The delivery.
What can we even say about that? I mean, Jesus.
1.20. I just love Marcy. What the heck's a gigawatt? What? So he explains essentially the only way to harness a gigawatt short of I love how we use this too, or Marty kind of jokes Doc, you can't just walk into a store and buy plutonium.
And he's I'm sure plutonium is available in every corner store in the future.
That's a good setup and pay. Again, the writing is so impeccable.
It's the only thing capable of producing that much energy is a bolt of lightning, and we don't know what it's going to strike. What?
What'd you just say?
A bolt of lightning.
That he shows again. It all pays off. We have just the clue that we needed. We have again. It was doing the "woe is me" Jennifer thing on the right on the back of it. Oh my God, we know exactly 10:04 Saturday night.
It's we don't know when lightning's gonna strike. We do now.
Great. Oh my God, this is it's like if you ever heard the phrase now we're cooking with gas. That is what this movie is.
In this case, we're cooking with lightning.
Yes, we're cooking. It's lightningy. Yes, we're cooking with lightning.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah. So we have two. Okay. Importantly, so we very economical. This is roughly at the hour point in the movie. I think.
It's a very economically paced movie.
Yeah, so we economically have established our two problems we have to solve to get the movie to an end. 1.21 gigawatts, and we gotta get George and Lorraine to kiss at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Those are our two goals. Those are the two things we need to make happen. Question is, which one's harder, the lightning or the romance?
Right.
Either way, sparks are gonna fly.
Oh, we know what helps save the day. Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan.
My name is Darth Vader.
Oh my God.
As a kid, I always thought he was saying from the planet Fumpkin.
Fumpkin?
Yeah, no, because it was a little muffled. Always
from the planet Fumpkin, where we introduce the Funko Pops.
There you go.
That's a stretch.
Yeah. So this convinces George. So it's something I want to mention. This is something that really hit me in the kind of our 40-year watch of it here. The heart of the piece, the genesis of the piece with Bob Gale in his father's high school yearbook, it really centers to me on the scene in the cafeteria between Marty and George, where it's a boy and his father, and he discovers that his father was kind of a failed writer, kind of an aspiring writer in the past, where he the reason he didn't go forward in that career was, he feared rejection, much like Marty does with the record company and sending his audition tapes in. And I love that Doc Brown's advice, the credo of the movie. You can put your mind to something, you can accomplish anything. Like the road less traveled thing.
And another line that creeps up. It's like I don't think I can handle that kind of rejection.
And again, the generation gap, man. The story's like the ultimate generational, put them together. It's just it's also kind of how the movie got made, because it was rejection after rejection until you find a Spielberg. Yep. Just again, so this at the end of the day, this is kind of like the whole this is the father-son moment that kind of gets us the whole movie to its core. I really feel it's. Anyway, so George tries to ask Lorraine out at the diner, and I always love it, to Crispin Glover's credit. Okay, well, he did fight him on every little thing. When the man's on, when he's the way he plays, you would never know. Okay, which is the way he plays George McFly is so flawless, and this the moment of milkshake, chocolate, and it just gets slid all the way down.
Give me a milk. Give me a milk. Chocolate. It's like well, watch it. We have a tough guy over here.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, he got it immediately. So
I know he commanded that milk.
So somebody had that chocolate milk ready for him to go.
Yeah. Love it. And of course, there's the adorable Lorraine, my density has popped me to you.
You are my density.
Yep.
Yeah, just go to a random girl, a girl you have a crush on, and say "You are my density."
I've used that line. It's worked before, buddy.
Oh, hey, nice.
Oh no, I'm kidding. Never used that. Believe me, given the opportunity, I would attempt it, but no, it's not.
I guess it would work if the girl's into science.
Oh yeah.
It's you are my density.
He's so. Imagine Isabel saying to Phineas. He's so dense.
Yeah. Well, technically, that's not incorrect.
Yep. All right, so we have the iconic chase through town, which repeats in the way that history repeats itself all throughout the whole trilogy.
And I love the Marty creating the skateboard, Bill chasing after him in his car.
Yep, and of course the manure. Yep.
Yeah.
So Lorraine's unfortunately, Lorraine, unimpressed by George, she is head over heels for Cal. You know how we know she's head over heels for Marty? She says, Calvin Klein, isn't he a dream, or he's a dreamboat, or is just dream with us, Calvin Klein?
Yep. It's she sees it. And again, it's very much contrasting to her current behavior in the present day.
Calvin Klein, Clint Eastwood must love these movies, by the way.
My name's Eastwood. Clint Eastwood.
Oh, what kind of stupid name is that? Oh, boy. Anyways, Calvin Klein, he can get any date he ever wanted after this movie, I'm sure.
Yep.
Okay, so Plan B. So again, Lorraine ends up asking Marty out to the enchantment under the sea dance, which is not ideal. That results in Plan B, which is okay, George. We're gonna make it look like I'm basically gonna play act that I'm kind of fooling around with her, which he's so deeply uncomfortable with. But it's desperate times that his existence is on the line. Which, by the way, the ticking clock of the piece, the photo, the disappearing photo, fading from time. Yes, it makes no sense through actual time travel logic, but it's so darn cool and visual.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the point is, okay, I'm gonna make George look like a hero. He's gonna come. He's gonna throw the pig that is Calvin Klein off of Lorraine and seemingly deck him.
Hey, you get your damn hands off her.
He's gonna do that big line.
Do I have to swear? Just love the fact they telling his dad yes, George. He's telling his dad to swear.
God dang it, George, swear. Yeah. All right, so while they park, so overall, to kind of get to the main meat of Act 3 here. So we have a tight 3 acts. Act 1, 80s. Act 2, basically the 50s stuff, and Act 3, the dance and the climax. So that is as tight a narrative. That is like film school 101. That's how you do it, Tiki. You and I. And Jacob, we put the 3 acts on a pedestal. In general, the 3 act structure on a quality 3 act structure on a pedestal. this is the OG, my friend.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
gold standard.
I was taught the 3-act structure through ET, so that's what I'm always going to go to. But
all right, fine. ET can share a place. Spielberg's involved in
I'm
both.
just saying, look at the low of lows of ET,
Yeah.
all right, and tell me that that's not like the most effective fucking use of low ever.
Fair point. Yep. And we killed him. Brought him back, but we didn't kill him.
Well, I mean, with ET, like, we're kind of veering off here, but with ET, like, the big thing with that is that it's not just that we kill ET, it's that we get to slowly witness Elliot's reaction to killing ET. That's what really kills you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyways.
Yeah. So, okay, so Act 3, we're at the Enchantment of the Sea Dance. Obstacle. George is now, there is a deleted scene. Now, you don't need it, because they cut it not because it didn't work, it's cut it because, for pacing, because the movie's so perfectly paced, you didn't need this scene. So George is delayed. If you're wondering why George is delayed, the redheaded kid that cuts in on him later at the dance.
Oh my god.
So George, he was like nervously checking the clock and his watch. And
that kid is like, basically the equivalent of like, what if Peeping Tom, George McFly, never got a wake-up call that was bad?
Pretty much, yeah. So the redheaded kid, so George is so paranoid about like waiting for the exact move that Marty told him to. Like he was going to do the old timey thing. It would only work in the 50s, by the way, and I love it. He went into a phone booth to call like the information to get like the time and date and that kind of like the whole like here's the weather and here's the time.
Uh-huh.
So when he did that, the redheaded kid put a broom in there and locked him in there, and Strickland would eventually like get him out of there. But he was like very much like, "Oh, you're such a slacker, McFly," and he's going to leave him in his juices, then eventually let him out. That was what the scene was. So that explains where the heck is George during all this. But we don't need that though. So Marty and Lorraine Park. And then we have the iconic, the line that's honestly, Tiki, the line that saves all of this whole plot line, because this is the scene that killed it for Disney. The scene that saves it is the moment that saves it is, it's like when I kiss you, I'm kissing my brother.
No, and you're right. That is the line that saves it, because it's like, okay, like we have
on some level she knows.
Yeah.
She can sense it. She can't put into words. That makes sense, but it's like on some level she kind of knows.
Right.
By the way, I don't know if it ever made into the cut, but Seth MacFarlane had this fantastic joke because he loves Back to the Future as well. Honestly, had he not done Star Wars as Blue Harvest, part of me wonders if he would have done Back to the Future.
That does kind of also explain why Doc Brown is in A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Well, that's true. So with that, in Something Dark Side, in the sequel, I think they joked about in the Blue Harvest commentary, and they put it into like a table read of a script or something. It was this gag where I do not know if made in the final version where we do like the Lois and the with Lois and Chris we do like the Luke and Leia kiss, but the gag was
Yeah.
Oh, Dragon?
The gag was
crap. Hello?
We can hear you now.
We can hear you. You cut out the gag was, and then you left us in suspense.
All right, so the gag was the gag was Lois saying to the Luke Skywalker Chris, like, it's like when I kiss you, it's like I'm kissing my brother, and Chris says, well, I'm from a farm, so it's okay.
Oh God.
It's like that kind of anyway. All right. So point being, like, after so Marty is relieved, and just in this moment, Biff enters. He pulls him out, and we take Marty out of the equation. We throw him in Marvin Berry's trunk.
Yep.
But to Tiki's point from way early on, okay, it's important that we refocus to George and Lorraine. Otherwise, we're never going to believe these two get together just in the pacing. So we need to give George and Lorraine an actual moment of connection that would actually, like, not make her go with him out of pity, but actually kind of have George have like a moment of like she would actually like him and actually have great reverence for him.
Yeah, definitely.
So the underdog he is something very right and heroic, and that he comes through for Lorraine in the end when at her desperate hour of their desperate moment of need. And Tiki, the tone and the dread of Biff's comes in. You think, oh, he's very, it's kind of the bully antagonist has created an obstacle, but the little touches, like we see the cleavage on Lorraine as she tries to run to the other side of the door, and Biff goes in. He's kind of, he's like, hey, like, give us some privacy. And then, God, George coming in, opening that door, and just that moment of like, oh, dread of like, oh, well, this is not the plan at all. And you see the terror on Leah Thompson's face of like, George, help me. It's like, oh my God, it's like the stakes have changed so much.
Totally, yeah.
And Biff just saying, you have the wrong car. And Lovey's trying, like, I'm not going to pick a fight with you, McFly. Just leave me to my business. And it's like, oh my God. It's like Biff is so despicable in that scene.
And like, yeah, which of course we terrifyingly see him twisting his arm.
Yeah.
But Lorraine actually like interferes, causing Biff to get distracted, leading to one of the most satisfying punches in cinema history.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Just the trembling fist, the punch, and then just like the rear up for the punch, and Silvestri scores, nailing him. And it's really important that I love that Marty gets to bear witness to the moment that solidifies his existence in both cases, both the kiss and this, really. So he was there. He facilitated this. Like without this, Marty is. This is the moment that impacts his life in a positive way. This changes the future for him, and the fact that Marty he lined up these pins and knocked them down. I love it. It's great. So Marty almost disappears during the dance because Marvin Berry's hand has been injured, and Marty's got to he's got to play the guitar for him, and then that redheaded kid almost screws up the kiss, but George stands up for himself, showing that George is going to be okay in the future, kids. He's a stand-up guy now. And then we get Johnny Be Good.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You know something with the hand disappearing? As a kid, it's one of those things, I don't know if you guys have this, but as a kid, I was so focused on the action. It looked to me like the whole hand disappeared. But if you actually look in the movie, the way they do the effect, it's actually it's an effect that Zemeckis hated because it's just one little circle and like the end of the fingertips. But I never noticed that because I was so dialed in. It looked like the whole hand was fading.
Oh God, yeah, right.
Crazy, it was like almost a Mandela effect of sorts going back to. Of course, the whole hand just fades. Like, oh my God, it's not fading. It's just like it's a little flashlight effect. It's like a little old 60s effect.
And that was because they rushed it and they had to okay, let's just get it out of the way.
Yeah, they moved things to July. They had no choice.
Yep.
All right, so we have Johnny Be Good, which inspires a Chuck Berry briefly over the phone. It's your cousin, Marvin Berry.
I would say that moment is maybe one of the most iconic and quotable moments of the whole movie. Is that fair to say?
I think so.
You know that new sound you're looking for? Well, listen to this.
But didn't you remember it's the 1950s and the phone wouldn't be that clear?
That's true.
Well, he doesn't hear it anyway, so it's fine.
Plot hole, ding.
And then leading to another iconic lines like you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are gonna love it.
Yeah. As a kid, I don't think it fully sank in as a kid like how clever that was. The whole thing of he lost the crowd. I was wondering why did he lose the crowd? He's like, yeah, he's going full Van Halen, which is before the 50s crowd's time. So we have a really sweet this is a really sweet goodbye he has with his folks here, where we basically see she kind of breaks up with Calvin Klein. He says, "Oh no, it's fine. It's a very amicable breakup." Like, yeah, I had a feeling about you two kids. That's okay. It's perfectly fine. And he has this beautiful line. It sums up the whole generation gap kind of moral of the movie, where it's like, hey, it's been educational. It's a nice line that distills it down, and it's just it's like the line that communicates to the kids and the viewers that your parents were people too, with hopes and dreams, and all this life decisions kind of lead to your parents being who they are. It's very
yeah, definitely.
And of course, if you ever have one of your kid one day and he lights his nice living room rug on fire, take it easy on him.
Yeah, if he sets fire to the living room rug, just take it easy on him.
I mean, I can understand why they'd go hard on him for lighting the rug on fire.
Yeah.
To be honest.
By the way, Inside Out 2 references this move, that line with that.
Do they?
Yeah, remember the whole like the dark secret at the end, where set the carpet on fire, burn the hole into the carpet.
Oh
That's
yeah,
to Back to the Future.
Which, by the way, I was always a little like I really genuinely kind of love Inside Out too, but that line in particular, that always kind of was like, really, we're gonna go out on that line, all right,
Yeah.
I guess. Like, no, or what I mean is like, really, that's the deep dark secret. Like after all that build up,
it's like a little. The character looked awesome, and just giving him like it was like a little hole in the rug.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I don't know. It's like one of the few things in Inside Out 2 that kind of disappointed me a little bit.
Well, we always blow. The idea that people always blow little things out of proportion, I guess, is the idea.
Yeah,
but,
no, when you put it that way, that does actually narratively make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so the climax. So I love in the build up to the the big like sending Marty home thing. I love that in the background is the undercurrent of Marty's side of this whole scene, of this whole climax. I love the bittersweet moments of the last scene he has with Doc before they meet up for sending him home. Doc is so proud of the time that the time machine worked. He finally built something that worked. He's thinking about he's brimming with ideas because he still has to build the thing, and he's just so proud. Like, I can't wait to go to the future in this thing. And Marty knows he's going to get gunned down in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I can't. And I love that. That's what you can tell in the acting on Michael J. Fox is like that. Going to that, cutting to the diner with him with the old quill pen, just with the old, the old English fountain pen. Writing that letter, darn the consequences. I'm going to save Doc, and he puts it in his pocket there, and then of course he kind of blows up, and the whole like, what is this? I can't know about the future. And he rips up the letter. It's all like, it's fantastic. So. Tiki, the climax, the editing. What do you got?
Oh, well, I mean, just like, let's just point out the fact right now, dude, that like, it doesn't matter how many times you watch this stupid climax, you still like when that cable comes, gets disattached, man, your heart sinks. Like it's nail biting. Like it's just like it's a magic trick. It's just like I cannot get over how genuinely suspenseful. The editing is just so like you're seeing the speedometer, you're seeing the the storm coming, you're seeing Doc struggling, you're seeing Marty's reaction shots. I mean, just everything, and of course the music on like maybe one of the most iconic music cues in movie history. I mean. This might be the most perfect movie moment of all time, honestly.
And like even then watching it, even me like watching who's seen this movie several times, like the moment that it actually goes into the future, you're like, yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying, man. It's just like it's like an evergreen moment for me. It's absolutely like an evergreen moment.
You go like I've seen this movie and it's going to happen, it's going to work. But just like the whole tensity, and then the release when the lightning when the DeLorean and the lightning connect and Marty finally goes to the future, you're like,
yeah, totally.
And even Doc's like kind of surprisingly subdued reaction, like yeah, like Doc just like running around like we did it, woo,
yatta.
I get I gotta be honest, guys. If I had this still back, it's gonna sound so corny. If I ever had to still Back to the Future down to one line, like one of those like one word to sum up Back to the Future kind of things, it's triumphant because of that.
That makes sense. That checks out for sure.
The movie just feels so triumphant. Like the Alan Silvestri score is like a high school band making the best thing you've ever seen. Almost, it just feels like it's such like a rally. It is like the rallying. It's like school spirit in the way that it should be. It's
Dragon. You know what it is. It's like the Danny Elfman gag from Blue Harvest, except like no, it's actually like they're really hyping it up, man. They're going for it.
So again, the editing is false. Now I got to talk about what this scene originally was. The reason we have it the way we do. So originally, both between the time chamber and when they changed the DeLorean, originally it was going to be they go to a nuclear test site. That's how they were going to solve the plutonium problem because it wasn't lightning. We didn't have lightning at all in the movie. They were going to drive the DeLorean to a Nevada-esque test site where a nuclear bomb was going to like an Indiana Jones, like Crystal Skull. The idea like a bomb was going to be dropped as like a test, and that would fuel the car and be like that would be the tension. But that scene was expensive, and they had to get to I forget if they were at 18 million, need to go to 13. I think it's what it was. They were budgeting for 18 million. They had to go to 13 million, so they had to lose $6 million, and that ending was $6 million. So that's why they again, as an example of saving money, actually helping the film. They budget down to, well, let's use what we have instead of and it just plays so well, because if we had gone to a random test set, it would have been why not use the tools that we have and just make full use out of the the Times Square set.
The clock tower set piece is I feel like it would already be iconic just in the way it's used in the movie up until this point, but it just puts it over the edge. Again, I truly think this whole sequence is one of the absolute best, most iconic, most legendary scenes in movie history. I mean, it's just
everything comes together. It all comes together flawlessly. We established the clock tower. We established the town. We have also, this is really cool too, the DeLorean going dead. Now, this is the thing. This is a design flaw in the actual DeLorean cars.
I forget about that. That's another part of what makes it so suspenseful. There's so many different layers to it. Yeah.
Where Marty again, he's wasting time trying to tell Doc, I have to tell you.
Right. Yeah. There's that tension of does he tell Doc or man, he's
trying to save Doc amidst all this, and Doc's trying to save Marty because this is the only shot he has to get back. There's 4 minutes on the clock during this whole sequence, which is the whole sequence probably takes about 4 minutes, so it's probably in real time. And it's just, they have that again. It's the fact the car goes down. It's the real DeLoreans always they've ended the usual alternator problems and electrical problems. So the idea that the car went dead like this is a thing that, and by the way, when they're shooting, the car actually did this kind of thing. So Marty's bashing his head on the thing, turning it on again. Thank God, the last second, just enough time to gear the car up. Anyway, so just all of it coming together. Then the matchstick moment, the matchstick moment of
the capital T, capital H, capital E, the matchstick moment.
Doc's climbed up almost like the Phantom of the Opera. So he's climbed up to the or Quasimodo and Notre Dame. He climbs up to the front of the clock tower, and he's finally plugged in. And again, as a kid, I'm with you, Tiki. He's I love the tactile nature of Doc.
Literally has to plug as a kid, man, and like I said, as a grown ass adult watching this thing in 2025, I am locked the fuck in.
I just love how tactile is. He's literally plugging. It's the giant plug.
It sells you.
But again, just the moment he does that, he tugs on it. We've all been there. We've all done that tug of the cord, and it's something with Christmas lights or something. It's you tug it, and then just that. Ah!
And his scream, it ends to be funny too when you see the color, he's oh,
it's perfect. And there's the literal to the last second of the lightning is coming down the line, and it shocks him for a second. It's oh my God.
And then, yep.
An earned yes, as Jacob put it. Yes, he's just running with exuberance and joy of I did it. He's back.
And speaking of and a great match cut is kind of him just looking up to the clock tower and then seeing that, and then we see the helicopter fly by. And yep, we're back in 1985.
Flawless edit, flawless transition.
Yep.
That's actually called a match cut, I believe.
Oh well, there you go.
I might be mistaken in that term, but there is a film term called a match cut, and I think it kind of fits that.
Yeah. So it's so trippy too in the history of this trilogy, just the fact that victory is so short-lived because of 2 and 3. If you really think about it, it's we get so much mileage. Right. By the way, because that scene was so, I suspect in part because that scene was such a crowd pleaser. It's maybe one of the reasons it's in all 3 movies. It's because we do that scene that sequence that literally him sending him back and doing the plug, the namesake of the movie. It is that scene. They have to put it in there.
Oh.
But in fact, so short, less than a minute later, Marty's Doc, I'm back from the future.
after he went through all that shit to get him back.
It is so funny when he kind of scares Doc, where he's Doc, oh,
it's
but honestly, that kind of stuff, that kind of connective tissue is one of the reasons why this all time.
You can't say many movies literally go back. You can count on one hand the movies, let alone the movies that do it well, when you go back into the guts of the actual movie, like Back to the Future 2 does. Anyway, so we're back in '85. Marty's overjoyed to see the squalor that the Hill Valley's in now, just the '80s grunge. Which, by the way they did that, they shot all the '50s stuff first and then the '80s because they dirtied it all down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. Even doing the makeup on the actors last, I think.
And I think I think you, Jacob, mentioned this earlier, getting teary-eyed over this, but I'm with you. So Marty, he runs there. He sees the paradox at play here, where Marty, he sees himself go back in time. So in a sense, it's like an endless loop. That's always going to happen. He's going to go back in time, and he'll be there to see that moment when he comes back. Runs up the dock, and he's too late. And Doc Brown rises from the dead, and he comes up, and he has the revealable proof vest, and it is such, as a kid, always elated my heart, yes, he's saved, because we knew Doc was going to be okay, but not the future Doc. The future Doc was not a guarantee when you're watching that movie for the first time.
Sure, yeah.
It was oh no, it's it's the tragedy that Eric Stoltz. He was focused on the wrong tragedy, by the way. His tragedy was all Marty focused. It was never oh God, what if Doc doesn't make it? Anyway,
oh, I mean, that probably would have been the scene to have all the dramatic method acting at.
But it's an honest and beautiful moment. We reveal this real classy moment. He pulls out the letter that he taped back together after he ripped it up. It's just but what about all that talk about change of future? I thought about it. What the heck? What the heck? And you know what's beautiful about that too is that there's actually a clever thing in the writing where early on, right before, when Marty shows up running late to go back in time, it says, Doc, you should have seen it where he decked him. Wait, did he do that before? No. It's just is it? Oh, never mind. So Doc knows in that moment that he knows how Marty's future is going to be impacted by, or at least that there's going to be an impact. And I want to say, my headcanon at least, is that was maybe a motivating factor. Well, Marty already kind of changed the future with that, so why not read a letter? Why not read the letter?
It's I kind of figured, what the hell?
Exactly.
Which is just a subtle, but without really saying too many words, just yep, that makes sense.
Also, it's Marty's influence on Doc that he kind of thought with his heart versus his head for a moment, and it really, it saved his life.
Yep.
Okay, so we see the new and improved McFly family. This is a nice feel-good. The only criticism Back to the Future ever received, and this is it's not a legit criticism, but it's one of the film snob criticism, was the movies at the end of the day, it's all about '80s materialism. Where maybe yes, but there's no problem with that if it is. It's if things worked out, for Marty's been through heck, we should reward the poor kid.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's got the 4x4. His family's doing well. George is a successful sci-fi writer now that he kind of embraced his passion thanks to Doc Brown. Again, he thinks thanks to Calvin Klein, which I'm sure he has questions. Why doesn't Calvin Klein ever return my calls? That's the hilarious scene.
It's and Marty, what a nice name.
Yep. If he ever walks by Calvin Klein, oh hey Marty, Calvin Klein. Who's that guy? What's it? Why does he call me Marty? Okay, anyway, so Crispin Glover, of all the scenes that he was difficult on, okay, now difficult just in the sense Gale had to just beg and plead for him to do what he wanted to do, because Crispin Glover says, "Oh, why can't he be like this? Can his hair be sticking straight up?" Well, no, for continuity's sake, it should be the way it has been for the rest of the movie. The end of this movie was the thing he dug his heels in. He hated the look of the new and improved George McFly. He hated doing all these scenes.
Oh man.
He was just questioning a million times and well, shouldn't it be the other way? And it shouldn't be like this and that. And Zemeckis had it with him at this point. He was yelling at him, okay, look, okay, George. George has been this way the whole movie. The movie doesn't work if we, he's saying it's too materialistic. I don't care if it's materialistic. It's the movie.
That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, point being ended for the best.
Dragon, I really do wonder if Matthew Broderick in Only Murders in the Building was inspired by these two stories that we've been Crispin Glover and Eric Stoltz.
I'd love to think
it really does feel there's kind of shades of that.
I'd like to think so. I don't know.
Who knows?
Okay, so with our new and improved future, again, McFlys are doing well. Everyone, George and Lorraine, they're happily in love. There's no misery alcoholic thing in there, none of that. And Biff's been neutered.
Yep.
Yeah,
Which is appropriate. He's now again. I love how we keep like the bully and victim relationship, but we've somewhat inverted or we've adjusted it. You know, where it's like the victim has come up on top and the bully is now and like he's the pushover now. It's adorable.
Yeah, it's not like George is outright a bully.
I mean, he did try to violate Lorraine, so anything he gets.
But like I said, it's not like George is outright, like threatening and hurting Biff like Biff was at the beginning of the
he's
movie.
not taking it. He's not falling for it. Like, oh, Biff, don't con me now. Oh, yes, Mr. McFly, let me do that second coat right now.
And Biff has an auto shop, so.
By the way, Tom F. Wilson, most cost-effective actor ever. 3 Biffs for the price of 1.
Yep.
So we have our ending. Marty's about to kiss the girl now that he's come back. He's got the 4 where everything's great. Yep.
Once again he gets blocked from the kiss once again.
And Mr. Doc shows up from the future.
And with a Mr. Fusion is digging through Marty's trash.
Gadget nut that I am, I love Mr. Fusion so much. I love that it's like a recycled coffee grinder. I love that it's fuel. Again, this was created as a direct solution to everything they went through in the whole movie. You know, it's the plutonium thing. We don't need plutonium, or we don't need to deal with the Libyans. The Libyans! We don't need to deal with those guys. Just put like recycle. We're just gonna recycle like atomic fuel. It's great.
Yep. And then your kids, Marty. Ready to help with their kids, and of course you see Jennifer just like processing. Wait, what?
She's along for the ride again. Zemeckis is like kicking himself. Like, why did we put the girl in the car? Why?
Right.
It should have been the boys. Why did we put the girl in there?
In spite of all that, though, roads where we're going, we don't need roads.
A triumphant ending.
I mean, just maybe one of the best last lines of any movie ever.
And seeing that DeLorean go to hover conversion is like,
I really want to get the Lego set for this for the DeLorean.
I can't tell you how many.
Perfect setup for part 2, even though they didn't know they were making a part 2. I'm not saying perfect setup, the girl shouldn't have been in the car, but it's like, just think about we get like the hover DeLorean, and then in part 2 we instantly open with oh my god, it's a whole freeway full of flying cars.
The thing is they didn't know they were gonna make a part 2. That's why they had her in there.
No, I get it.
Yeah. So but now it's just like, why did it?
But again, it's just a great end that had there been nothing else, it still would have been like Adventure on the Horizon. We have like back from going Back to the Future. Is just, I don't know. It just kind of works, and it's just kind of seeing them just.
I'd say that even if it didn't become a trilogy, it still would be hailed as the classic that it is.
I mean, a lot of people, even those die-hard Back to the Future fans, they will always say, the first one, it's you can't beat that first one. I know Tiki has, so.
Do you want to talk about that for a minute here?
Well, I'm just saying.
I think the first one is probably objectively the better movie, the better screenplay, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
But as a sheer time travel movie, I think Back to the Future Part 2 is maybe the best time travel movie that we've ever gotten. I mean, just the ways that movie plays around with time travel. I mean, it's like we have the iconic set piece of Hill Valley 2015. We have the sports almanac thing. We have the Biff alternate future. I mean, and then of course the last act essentially being okay, we're going to go back to the past. It's just genius. I will definitely say I don't get how you could I like 3 for what it is. I think 3 is, for me, pretty definitively the weakest of the trilogy. I don't think it's a bad movie, but I definitely think it's the Return of the Jedi of Back to the Future.
Remember, 2 and 3 is intended to be one movie that they split up, so it's kind of it's kind of an extended third act, if anything.
I guess, but I don't know, man. 2 just does so much with the time travel stuff.
because obviously, like part 1, we're going to 1955. Part 3, we're going to the Old West. I really love how part 2, we're all over the fucking place. Like, and that to me, you honestly, Dragon, you know what it is? And I literally just came to this realization like right now. I think part 2 as a movie is the closest thing that we get to Back to the Future, the ride.
I mean, pretty much. Yeah,
We're jumping around at different points in time, and to me, that is like the most exciting part of the franchise. That being said, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Back to the Future Part 2 is a better screenplay or better editing than the original. I can't objectively say that, but I don't know. I still think, sentimentally, I prefer Back to the Future Part 2. I'll let that be my final thought, honestly. I don't really have a ton else to add to... I mean, what more am I going to say about this movie that hasn't already been said?
Yeah. Jacob, you have anything you want to throw in there?
I mean, again, there's not much I can say that hasn't been said for like the past 40 freaking years. Like, this movie is like a cornerstone of American cinema and probably just worldwide cinema as a whole. Like, as we pointed out, like basically a touchstone of American cinema. Like, basically like one of the definitive movies from the 80s. One of the definitive sci-fi movies. It's like basically, I guess, and as I said, I'm probably gonna be my final thought. As I just reiterate what I said from the beginning, like I said, poetry, it rhymes. It's like it deserves its title as one of the greatest movies ever made.
Again, Back to the Future just hits me in such a deep place. I just feel nothing but love for it, and I want to be clear, I still like, Toy Story at the end of the day is probably gonna be my favorite movie ever. Let's be honest. There's so many great movies out there and that have impacted me, and also I think some of the greats that have stood the test of time and made, like, AFI film list or whatever, just they're lauded or they're not lauded. They're very much as there's a universal acclaim for a movie or not, but the Back to the Future just feels like it is like like it is the National Film Registry. It made the cut. It's just sometimes a classic's a classic, and it's something rare that even though we weren't there from the jump, we weren't there from like the premiere of Back to the Future, but in a sense, it feels kind of collectively ours through time. Like it just feels like it's for everyone. It's something that, again, it'll never be dated because it's set in '85. It's a movie about time travel. You'll always be 85 and 55, and the fact that we put a number on it doesn't date it. It makes it just kind of like it's in the history books.
In an ironic way, it's pretty timeless.
Yes, it's timeless, and it goes to show that sometimes, again, like in days of film snobbery, and we're looking for perfection and everything, and sometimes perfection just kind of happened on us. It wasn't like no one trying, like there wasn't Nolan like doing backbreaking research and just trying to make the next Kubrick movie. It was just like it's guys who just wanted to make a movie they could enjoy and just kind of be proud of, and they wouldn't embarrass Steven Spielberg. That's kind of what the impetus was for Back to the Future, and it just the fact that it's gone on for so long, and it's just always like I remember every Easter I try and make a point of like watching Back to the Future because I just have fun there just watching reruns of it on Easter.
And with me, like I was tempted not to even rewatch it because I know this movie so well.
I'm glad I did rewatch it. Though.
I mean, I'm glad I did too, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And again,
and to add to the point, like the irony of like Disney passing on this, I watched it on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Streaming services are just a hellscape now. You never know what's going to end up on what streaming service.
For how long?
It's a Hulu. It is a Hulu thing, but technically I did watch it on Disney Plus.
Yeah. But again, you know what? Hey, we have a Mickey Mouse. Shirt in this movie with Dave, with Mark McClure wearing that Mickey Mouse shirt. But it's appropriate that it kind of ends up kind of Disney adjacent, one way or another, because we got Bob Gale with his hopes and dreams as a filmmaker. He ends up kind of doing a Disney movie. I don't know.
Yep. And okay. So and Dragon, you can finish your point now. I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyway, so just look, at the end of the day, Back to the Future, again, whatever permutation that it's been between the trilogy and the original and the ride and the Telltale game, it's one of those like iron tight, kind of almost bulletproof, thanks to that bulletproof vest that Doc Brown was wearing, franchises. It's just special. It means a great deal to me. It's kind of a connecting point with my grandfather. It's just everything it's everything I think film should be. It's something to be celebrated, enjoyed, and please a crowd, but also something that holds up and you can rewatch endlessly and not get tired of it.
Right. Okay, and just to round out the comments here, Little Blue says that's my favorite version of the DeLorean with Mr. Fusion and flying. Yeah. I agree, and that's also pretty much the version of the DeLorean that the ride's based on, so I can't help but have that be my favorite version. And then I think John Kelly kind of sums up the themes quite nicely here. Well, let me go out. I'll just say thanks to Code Geass, Little Blue, Slasher Fred, HA2003, and Sonia Pantoja popped up for a little bit. I mentioned Little Blue, I think, yeah. And then, of course, the incomparable, the last John Kelly of Krypton. But I'll leave it on this. I don't even think we need to. The fireworks are actually just starting up, Eli. It's funny on my end, at least. But yeah, I'm glad that wasn't a factor. I don't think we need to end this off on like a cute little quote or something. I think we just ended up on this comment.
Sure.
Marty can have everything he ever wanted, but at the end of the day, it's pointless if he ends up squandering it. And that's kind of the point by the end of the trilogy. Write your own future.